Welcome to the final day of the North American Challenger Series, everyone. So glad to have you with us. I'm Jonas Willinger, alongside Jazzman and Light Rose, as we need to send one final team to the NAL. This has been a crazy few days. Yesterday, we sent the team of Packer, Bino, Mike W, Silo, and Volsper to the NAL, Foot Locker's finest, after a thrilling two-map series against In Control. Adam, when we spoke to Packer after the game, it was clear that he was thrilled to make it back to the league, but even more thrilled that this time he got to make it on his own terms.
I don't know if you can see me right now. I don't know if I'm like lagging or something, but yeah, I think it's an absolutely incredible way to do it for Packer. Obviously having the experience on that team, like Bino being on CL4L and making it that far into a major, it kind of comes as no surprise that this is a roster that'll continue to find success. And I'm really excited for the guys. I think that they stand a really good chance of making a run in Pro League, and I think they have a great group of players to work with.
Well, and they did it by doing what seemed like an impossible task up to that point, by taking down In Control. In Control had not dropped a map so far in at least the playoff portion here in the Challenger Series. Through Swiss phase, through the bracket, In Control experienced their first loss, and Foot Lockers were happy to take advantage of that.
Yeah, for In Control, it was kind of a difficult thing to take, not even getting that first map. I mean, it kind of looked like they were going to be able to on that first map, but there were simply too many factors that Foot Locker's finest were able to take advantage of, and so they're going to drop to that lower final. But, you know, we've kind of said it so much, how In Control are going to get that second chance. They don't have to, you know, sweat too hard and take it too hard against them when they lose against what was a pretty good team.
Well, their opponents today, as In Control drop down to the lower final, will be the team that's been waiting a couple of days to see who their opponent was going to be. LATAM's Last Hope. Adam, this team who came all the way back from a round one loss in the upper bracket to see you in Valhalla, they go on a undefeated lower bracket streak to get to this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like everyone sort of expected that. I think Fisher just had a really rough showing in playoffs, so that was kind of their first victim. Then Keegan Co came next. I think that they couldn't play up to potential. But see in Valhalla, that game was a lot closer, a lot more edge-to-edge there. But I think that this is ultimately a team that, despite their run in the lower bracket, still looks really strong. And I think that we can't really count them out just because of that sort of slow start that they had, because they've been riding a wave of momentum ever since then.
Well, In Control, V, you did hint at it, right? They are having this second chance, right? LATAM's Last Hope, this is their one and only opportunity. They're going to get to play in a single promotion game. In Control, they could not make it through their first opportunity to make it to the NAL. I mean, these are guys who have never been in T1 before. Would be a tremendous opportunity. Gotta think they have a pretty good chance of going all the way now that they have a second chance at making it there.
You say that, and there is a really interesting statistic that I'd like to share with you and everybody, is that out of the 5 Challenger Series, 3 of them being Asia, that have gone through, every single team that has lost the upper final lost the lower final. So second chances have not actually helped at all. And so for In Control, they would have to buck the trend, beat LATAM's Last Hope, or fall victim to what feels, I don't know, like a curse of sorts. It's very peculiar that through all the regions this has happened, and it doesn't forebode well for In Control.
Well, talk to me a little more about these guys, though, because it doesn't seem like a team, V, that should necessarily fall victim to the same thing. I mean, we say that, yet they had 6-3 match point on map 1 yesterday and could not close it out. I mean, knowing what you know about these guys, I mean, you have Trevmac at the helm. You know, is this a team you think that can buck that trend, that can put themselves in that winning position?
Potentially. I think about half of their game is very, very good. Their attacks look clean, precise. It's stellar. I mean, if you go back in their game yesterday, they were cleaning house on the attack, and that when it went to the defense, Foot Locker's finest were really able to take advantage of a lot of small lapses in map control, and that's the thing I worry about. I'm not, you know, sweating bullets over whether or not their attack is going to succeed. It's actually their defense that I worry about.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of the thing with LATAM's Last Hope is Prevmac and Co on In Control have the advantage of playing like a really well-structured team. They're a very solid team. But I also think LATAM's Last Hope are the exact same way. They've been playing really structured for a long time, and they've been together for a year now, and they've been in Pro League. They have NAL experience, right? Like, there's just so many advantages that LATAM's Last Hope have coming into this game, not to mention Millie's playing off of a hotspot as far as I'm aware, as far as he's said. So that is going to be problematic, I think, to begin with, because he's been the main carry for that team. So I think that for LATAM's Last Hope, they have to just play like themselves. They can't get lost in the sauce. As long as they're continuing to play their game, I don't know what In Control are going to be able to do. They're going to have to show me something completely different from what we saw against Packers team last time.
Well, talk to me a little bit more about this LATAM's Last Hope roster, right? We've seen them a lot, more than any other team so far, given the sheer number of matches that they've had to play to get to this point. As a result, we've gotten quite a good look as to their play style, as to who those difference makers are going to be. We've talked a lot about Ivan. We've talked a lot about Pyrox and what they've been able to do. I mean, Adam, what do you make of this roster? Oh, he's back. What do you make of this roster now that we've had a chance to see it so often?
Pyrox is the best player in North American Challenger League history is kind of what I've made of this whole thing. I definitely think that in terms of individual skill, like, these cruelty players have just gotten so much better. Like, I think that that's the thing, is individually, Ivan is fragging out. Pyrox has just been insane over the past year. There's really nothing stopping them, I think, other than themselves. They have good strategy. They have Matumbo on shields all the time, right? Like, there's plenty of different things that they can do, plenty of different avenues that they can approach this game at. And I think that that's kind of just going to help them out in the long term. I don't know if In Control are going to be able to outgun that. Like, it might be difficult for them.
Yeah, but the thing about this team being X-Cruelty is if you've been paying attention, even before they made the NAL, they have been pretty good, and they have been running through T2 and T3 for a while now. They've been on that kind of upper echelon. And then when they made the NAL, everybody was like, oh, they kind of got a free spot. But now making it through on their own merits, I think, is an incredibly powerful thing.
Well, they are going to be running into a team with a chip on their shoulder. I feel like this kind of storyline we've talked about for a while, V, as you bring up, right, is the fact that they had that separate qualifier last year. They had the separate Challenger Series last year, and this has been about proving themselves and their ability to get through. Now, on the flip side, In Control have the chip on their shoulder. They just lost for the first time in this bracket. They came so close on that first map and now need to make a change, right? Now they need to find out what they did wrong and adapt for the first time in this bracket. You think that In Control chip on their shoulder may be able to power them up here, right? We saw them yesterday in that victory, unable to close it out. You think that might be a difference maker here now that they've experienced their first loss?
I think potentially. I mean, we haven't really been able to see this team publicly, at least in the upper tier of Siege, for a while now, because 3/5 of them were on pack runners, weren't even in T2. And so I do wonder how they're going to adapt to that. But I think having foundations like Trevmac and Millie really is going to help them out. And I wonder how they're going to go up against some of these teams that have been together, because one of In Control's strengths was that they've been together for a little bit of an extended period of time, more than some of these other teams. But LATAM's Last Hope have been together for, I think, over a year and a half, maybe up to 2 years at this point. You can't just rely on your team cohesion to get you over the line, like some of the games that we've seen in the Swiss stage.
Well, let's talk maps. Let's see where this best of 3 is going. Again, for these teams, this is their last and final opportunity to make it to the NAL, an opportunity that only comes around once a year. Adam, we are going to start things off on Nighthaven Labs. That'll be the choice that LATAM's Last Hope want to go to before we move over to Kafe. What do you make of this?
Well, I think that In Control have actually had a lot of reps now on Labs, so this should hopefully be nothing too serious for them. I think that that's a great pick for them. But you have to also keep in mind what happened last night when In Control lost 2-7. It was last night. 2-7 against Footlocker's Finest. So you already have recent VODs of In Control on Nighthaven on basically every single series that they have played so far in the playoffs. And each time they've won, except for against that game with Packer. So I'm gonna have to see if there's anything, good for change in terms of In Control's Labs, because there's probably a lot of VOD review that could have been done in the short amount of time that LATAM's Last Hope had.
I kind of did expect either Labs or Lair to make it through, because if you look at LATAM's Last Hope's reputation on this map, I mean, they haven't really lost it in the entirety of Challenger Series. Map 1, and for In Control to have to start on the defense there really is terrifying. And then you go over to Lair, and they're 3-2 on this map, and losing up against Hat and Co and Fury of Frogs, two not half bad teams, with Fury of Frogs barely missing out on the playoffs. Their expectations for that team were a lot higher. So for me, I just feel like this leans towards the way of LATAM's Last Hope. And like you said, with that VOD review that you could potentially have over In Control, I just think that's going to make things worse.
Well, Adam, talk to me about the play styles that we've seen from these two teams, right? In Control, especially when they're playing well, their attacks just seem to be going incredibly well. It just seem to be just flowing and taking the control, something that's been especially surprising for this team, considering that they are a T2 team and usually attacks can be a problem. When you look at these maps and you look at the play styles that we have in front of us with In Control and LATAM's Last Hope, anything jump out to you in terms of a certain advantage that one team may be able to find?
Yeah, I think you brought up a very good point there. Is like attacks are basically going to be this entire series. If LATAM's Last Hope get their attacks rolling with the shields on Mutombo, Labs could be a breeze for them. It really just depends on how In Control managed to play their attacks as well. I think Kafe is also obviously a very difficult map to attack for some teams. Lair is new-ish. I mean, we can call it new as much as we want, but it's been played routinely enough to the point where it's kind of been figured out on attack. I think it falls more to a 4-2 split than it used to be, like a 5-1. But yeah, that's really what's going to matter here on all three maps, is how that attack's going to go. And I think shields are going to be a big part of that, mainly on Mutombo's side. For In Control, I don't know. I mean, I could see them bringing the shields. They brought it to like mixed results throughout most of playoffs. So I think that's going to be a very important, crucial factor to look at.
Well, V, let's moving on to map 2. I mean, I know we touched on this, but Kafe is clearly a map that In Control have proven comfortable on, just in terms of their map bans. I know yesterday they were willing to let the decider go to Kafe potentially in a series that could and did at least initially determine their chances of getting into the NAL. Here, on their second and final opportunity, they choose that map for map 2. Do you like that map for that team's sake?
I think it's definitely a little bit up in the air. Looking at some of the previous results for this team, I mean, they have won the past 4 times that they've been here, up against Keegan Co, up against Aerial Arise, 2 of the playoff teams that made it through. And then you look on the other side of LATAM's Last Hope, who have not shown it at all, but they also haven't banned it. So there's a huge question mark there, and it's kind of scary, because I talked about how Labs is very good for LATAM's Last Hope, but you don't know how they look going on to that second map. For In Control, I think that means that they're confident in their ability to play that map, like you said, and I think that should carry them forward.
Well, our final order of business before we get into this series is to get your thoughts on where you think this one is going. I know a lot of pressure here, because this is the final chance, the final team in all the regions to make it to the top, to make it to tier 1. Adam, I'm going to start with you. It's a very simple question here. In Control or LATAM's Last Hope, who do you think is going to be the final addition to the T1 scene in 2026?
I don't know how you already don't know what I'm going to say, man. Tread back to the league! Let's go! I don't know. There's no bias here. There's no bias here. But I will say, like, for either case, there's an argument to be made that maybe In Control won't succeed if they make it to the North American League, especially because they have inexperienced players as compared to LATAM's Last Hope, who they've already played in the NAL, right? Like, this is their second chance at redemption. So I think the likelier story is LATAM's Last Hope would end up winning this series. But try back to the league, I can hope!
Okay, I can see where the heart lies, but maybe the logic taking over. V, what do you think?
I'm gonna stick with kind of superstition, the upper bracket loser curse, I guess, as I want to call it. And I think that with how coordinated LATAM's Last Hope is, how deadly Pyrox can be, and I think the only person that's going to be able to kind of stand up to him is probably Millie, I'm sticking with LATAM's Last Hope. I think they've got it. Statistics are on their side. I've always been a believer in this team, and to kind of, I don't want to say shut the naysayers up, but like I've said before, to make it on their own merits would really be something else, just like it was for Packer in that upper bracket final.
I'm really processing what you said earlier now. You're saying every single region, the team that lost in the upper bracket failed in the lower bracket as well?
Correct. Five teams in five different regions.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird to look at, and somehow it happened every single time. It could be the VOD review that you kind of get the extra day between. I don't know. There's not a common thread between all of them.
I guess we'll find out if In Control can break the curse. Can these T2 gamers make it to the NAL for the very first time? Or will LATAM's Last Hope return to the league they just got relegated from? Guys, take it away.
Thank you so much, Jonah. Beautiful voice as always, and beautiful man as well. Always a pleasure. In Control and LATAM's Last Hope. This is a matchup that maybe some of us didn't expect to see whenever we first saw the teams that qualified to Challenger Series. In Control have made an incredible run through this bracket, but now they have to break a curse and try to win in the lower bracket after losing.
It is a tall order, but I think all the way back before this even started, I don't think a lot of people predicted that In Control would get like this. They would be here, go 3-0, and then cruise through the upper bracket, only to lose at the very last second. So safe to say that In Control has not had a ton of pressure on them, I feel like, because the expectations for them have been a little lower, and I didn't really get to mention that in the pre-show. But I still feel like that pressure isn't there. Everybody's just waiting for that shoe to drop, and I think it finally did in that upper bracket final. And so everything here, whether it is, tread back to the league, whether it's saying that ironically, unironically, everybody kind of seems to be on the side of LATAM's Last Hope, and I think that's exactly where In Control can really thrive, just like they have been throughout the entirety of this tournament.
Well, you gotta do it now. You've put up so much work since the start of the Challenger Series. You cannot let it go to waste here. In Control, a team that basically formed for these quals and has just completely turned around all expectations. But can they beat the biggest expectation of all and make it to the league? TrevMac, he's about to try and make his way out of Target and into the NAL, but first, he's going to have to get through this upstairs defense as the con wall already opened pretty early on. This is the thing about Last Hope is they are really good at just getting their set pieces done. And I think that was a successful mirror trick onto Matumbo's hard breach. I'm not sure if TrevMac got that off in time, but it doesn't seem like the wall's opening right now. Maybe it's because of the Tubarão. Regardless, getting that mirror on the wall is going to be extremely important because now you can open that up, throw a C4 through it once the breach is open, and make LATAM's Last Hope's life a little bit harder on this take. But so far, they haven't been thwarted just yet. Drones coming in through E-Box, and pressure over towards this con side means that Last Hope are going to be looking to get this con wall open.
They did get the wall open, especially because they reinforced the rotate into connector as well. So even if it hadn't gotten opened, eventually it would. You do have Rovi Selma. They're playing for the C4, retreating a little bit back into side. It's kind of expected. Now it's kind of up to LATAM's Last Hope. What pace do they want to take this? How are they going to take E-Box? Of all things, a very critical part of this site. You can see Millie really wanting to defend this pillar wall. The longer you can delay this, the more difficult it is for the attack to actually set up the rest of their attack, because they're going to have to wait for that wall to get open, then send somebody else to potentially over Raptor side to pressure out Vironics and IT. There's a lot of set pieces that need to be in motion, and for that to happen, LATAM's Last Hope is going to have to get these wall open, destroy all of this utility that is still in play. There are no Roteros in Cadence pockets, just Ivan's Ash charges. With time dwindling down, how are LATAM's Last Hope going to find their first foot in the door, that entry that they really want?
You can see that Trevmac and Millie, both of the C4s that are active, have fallen down below and into games, which means that they're going to try and go for this denial. So as Last Hope try to take the site and they claim Veronix inside of Raptors and establish a ton of control, they're still going to have to worry about that C4. Mutombo starting to go for that plant now. Hasn't been called out. Ivan on the lurk will shut down the first C4 and the second. So that entire plan will get thrown to the side. And as Logger gets fallen by Cadence, it's all down to Nesta. They tried to go for that downstairs retake, but were not prepared for Ivan's map control down below. And at just that moment, Latam's Last Hope cracked through In Control's defense like it was nothing. That is what I'm concerned about. Last Hope take no time at all to get in the necessary pieces of control. In Control are gonna have to contest that to waste even more time.
I mean, it's a good idea, I think, on paper, is playing downstairs, using some of that information just to try to contest, but Ivan is a very good player. I think he was, he made that jump over to JJ and Co. Didn't really find too much success, but now he's back on Latam's Last Hope. He is still an incredibly scary gunner, and I think his time on JJ and Co. made people forget that for just a little bit. We're probably gonna say his name so much tonight, along with Pyrox, who. You go back to the previous series against Valhalla, and he was cracking skulls. Those two are just such a dynamic duo that I mentioned how I think Millie was really the only person that could show up against some of these players. I'm also looking towards players like Logger to show up in the fragging department. They need to step up if they really want to match Latam's Last Hope's mechanical skill.
Yeah, it really sucks to have one of your main analysis points be like, guys, you gotta help your team. But it's certainly the case right now, right? I think In Control just cannot afford to have a low performance from a player that you're really expecting something out of, right? Like Millie, we mentioned that he's kind of hotspotted right now, playing on, I guess, a phone hotspot. So his internet's not gonna be too hot. He's gonna need to step up still. Trevmac is gonna need to do better than he ever has in a tier 2 game, or even any Siege game in his life. And I could say the same for all the players on In Control. They've shown glimpses of hope, but it's never been a consistent thing where all 5 players are able to perform. And that's never a thing in Siege games, right? And that's never supposed to be. But I don't feel as confident in Control to kind of pick up the slack if Millie or Trevmac is to fall behind, unless I'm proven otherwise. I mean, Nesta has had a few great games. Veronix, Logger, all of them have shown elements of greatness, but they just need to do it consistently, like a tier 1 player would. That's what they have to act like here. As In Control, already getting pushed out of this vending side. The Goyo popped, and Nesta forced to rotate away. Those ram drones from Ivan are no joke. He's got to be careful of that verticality.
It's a pretty good Kafe push. Use a lot of utility. There's some of these player back. Gonna be able to take care of some defensive utility around the site, and now here is where Latam's Last Hope can shift their focus onto the actual site, but spotting some players over by storage. A choice has to be made. Do you spend the time that you have and rotate over to try to contest those players, or do you commit to the actual site? It seems Latam's Last Hope is doing the latter. A frag grenade's gonna push Nesta back, and now the shield player and Nesta just has to thread back and forth and try to find some safe haven.
He is in a completely stranded spot, and that's the problem. In Control are not helping with this push in any means. Mutombo finding Veronix. Things are just going from bad to worse as Trevmac is surrounded, spotted, and taken down. Millie is the last one standing in a 1 versus 4. Claims Ivan on the lurk. But he still has to go up against Cadence on that Blackbeard and 3 more of Latam's greatest. And yet, it won't happen. It is a second attacking round on a second different site, and In Control, it went worse than the last time. Definitely gonna need some sort of reset here.
It's kind of weird to say that I feel like this is expected for In Control. I don't know if this amount of severity within the first couple rounds, but In Control do favor the attack. They look much better, and I think their weaknesses are way less glaring. And hitting, I think, the bar of the 4-2 is probably going to be the standard for In Control. You really do need to put up a fight, though, in these next couple rounds, because so far, LATAM's Last Hope have not had really any apprehension with what they're doing. The defensive utility, whether it has been, you know, the Tubarão, the Azami, it hasn't actually done too much to stop the attack. Maybe it slows them down by, you know, 10, 20 seconds. But as you mentioned in that first round, LATAM's Last Hope move very quickly. They will skedaddle around the map in the exact position they need to and not waste any time. So playing around time denial is a very risky thing with this team.
Yeah. Last Hope just get in, right? Like, I'm gonna need to see more direct fights from In Control. It feels like they can't just give up the position and kind of just fall back and hope that the rest of the setup works for you. I feel like you're gonna have to do a little bit more digging if you're In Control on this defense. Get a little aggressive. Take some fights that might be risky. It's kind of a... It's an interesting game for sure, because LATAM's Last Hope are already starting with 2 attacking rounds in their favor. For In Control, and to top that off, they lost on 2 different sites. So In Control are kind of scrambling to figure out what the solution might be here. It's flipping between the sites, the option. As they return back to this top floor, IT wall already opened up. Matumbo on this Monty is the switch up for LATAM's Last Hope, as well as Ivan on the Ying, no longer on that Ash. So they are looking for an even quicker lineup into the site. So In Control have to be prepared for this aggressive take early on.
A very common thing for Matumbo to be on. Loves the shields, has been a dedicated shield player for a very long time. And as much as I talked about how Ivan on JJ and Co, people kind of forgot. I think it's the same with Matumbo. People didn't really think about how strong of a shield player Matumbo can be. And that happens a lot when you go from T1 to T2. The skill ceiling gets a little bit lower. C4 goes out. There's about half damage to Matumbo. But here's that time denial. You've got the Goyo, and that's going to stop this team for about 10 more seconds. You've got the smoke in Trebmac's pocket. So far, we're not seeing any of those direct engagements, and granted, that is just part of the site. You're not really going to have too much happen until you actually engage upon the site. But we'll see how much real pressure this team can actually put on. Matumbo hopping in, and this was scary, and what a pinch from LATAM's Last Hope!
Smilly and Veronix immediately going down inside of servers, but there's a pick on the side of In Control, finally finding something. But as that plant starts to go down, Ivan swings in with the pistol. Trebmac is blind. A third for Ivan. He's like 007, an agent of chaos though, as he's got Candelas in his hand, has the 4th in his line of sight, shotgun in pocket, and give him the 4th. The former pro for Cruelty and Envy shows up big here, and In Control are certainly losing control of this game already. They need something out of this.
Yeah, it is at the point where it is looking a little dire, because you have had, I think, what? Is it, if I'm reading correctly, 4 kills in 3 rounds? And one of those was, you know...
I lit up like a Christmas tree when Nesta got a kill. I was like, oh, wait, actually something happening? And then nothing ever
We've got, like, an exit frag, and then, like, maybe 1 trade. But overall, In Control do not seem alive at all. They are not putting up any fight. They are not shooting back. It is pretty dire for this team. It is only the first 3 rounds. In a best of 3, we are guaranteed at least another map. But this is for Pro League. To go down this quickly, this early, it is not a good warning for potentially the rest of the map. And I said, LATAM's Last Hope were very good on Nighthaven Labs. And we saw In Control struggle on Nighthaven Labs. So we could just be seeing the, you know, formulaic version of those 2 things meeting, but it is still not good to see In Control struggle this much already.
Well, on a more positive note, taking a look at the other teams that have qualified in through Challenger Series, obviously In Control and LATAM's Last Hope looking to do that, but we are the last game in Challenger Series 2026. We've already determined the 5 champions from our other region, or I guess, well, more than 5. As we take a look, Europe had Team Secret Academy, and I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this, Giglioletti, qualify to the Europe and MENA League. Now, TSA actually are LFO now due to rules and restrictions because they can't have 2 secrets in the league. E36 and Can You Be My Enemy making it to APAC North. And I'm going to hold that thought for a moment. As Blitz is already in, but Veronix finds that kill onto Ivan as well as Pyrox. So as this plant starts to go down and it gets off, In Control find themselves 2 kills upstairs, but it's TrevMac to fall on the side of In Control. The Ella dying means that Rovi can now start to take space and potentially focus on Veronix, but Lager is up above inside of Rafters. Millie is nearby to try and help him fight inside a mudroom, and Rovi is just gonna decide to back off, go over towards that cargo window, but he might have been red. Hops in, and he gets slammed by Millie. 4 versus 2, a great round here from Veronix as he secures his 3rd. Mutombo stuck inside the site, and as Ivan gets a 4K last round, Veronix will respond in kind, and In Control will find their first defensive round.
So much of that attack hinged on the Blitz entry into storage. You use that as the distraction because as that entry was happening, the plant was going down. Rovi was trying to see if they could activate that 45-second timer, but because Veronix is there with the shotgun, you're able to down the player, keep the Blitz away, be Warden, of all things, the perfect operator for that engagement. It's just a bunch of things coming together that work in harmony for In Control, and they stop the bleeding. They get a round, Adam, and we can stop being all doom and gloom about this team, at least for 1 round, because things, didn't go perfectly on the side of the attack. It was definitely In Control making some good individual plays, but maybe some less than stellar plays on the side of LATAM's Last Hopes, not knowing potentially that there was a Warden in there and still going in there with the Blitz. But on over to Cafeteria. I don't know if this is just a Challenger Series thing or it's like a true shifting of the meta, but Cafeteria has been played so much more recently. Have you noticed this?
Yeah, no, I totally do. I'm actually, I think it was SAL we were casting when it was like first picked or like second picked. I can't remember. But yeah, it's an interesting site, and I think it actually plays into the strengths of In Control that we saw in that last round, which was they were able to like hold themselves together on that top floor control. It seems like In Control like playing off site. They're gonna need something a little different this round. As there's a rush in! The C4 from Lager is so well read! Finds Rovi and Mutombo! Veronix finds Kaden as well! It looks like everybody's in a 4K fiesta! As it's Lager with his 3rd, looking to hunt down the final player outside of Kitchen. Incredibly well read there by Lager. Absolutely insane timing. Him holding that C4, tossing it and spamming his C4 button just completely opened up this entire game for In Control. And best of all, if they win this 5 versus 1, if they don't allow Ivan to ace, this is a tertiary bomb site, a kitchen site that they now no longer have to go to. They can choose whatever site that they would please, except for that basement. Ivan finds Millie through the smoke, but it's TrevMac to finish the job. In Control are slowly closing the gap here.
Well, it's 2 rounds now where LATAM's Last Hope had an attack that was spurred on by a Blitz pushing through a window that was stopped by a Warden holding that window. It's an incredibly gutsy play to try to clown car through the window. You have the glass, you have the Blitz. I just don't think it's a good idea with In Control. You have to drone that out. Spot that a player is going to be right next to you. The C4 could be lobbed right over that kitchen half wall. There's a lot of uncertainties with that attack. And for LATAM's Last Hope to go for the rush in a play like this, they're hinging so much on In Control not being ready, and that simply just was not the case. It's a gamble that does not work out, and now In Control, they're not going to go to that second floor, which I think is a great choice. We've seen that whether it is the basement, whether it is the second floor, this is just going to be a struggle bus for In Control, and so now LATAM's Last Hope are going to be forced to take that top floor, something they have just really been struggling with in these last couple rounds.
Yeah, really a big proving ground here for In Control is if they can actually take this site. After having done the kitchen, now they're gonna try and do this storage. Again, my main worry has kind of just been for In Control. They're not really contesting Latam's Last Hope on this. And I feel like maybe this is the site that makes a lot of sense for In Control to play, because they have a lot of space they can play around with and a lot of areas that they can fall back to, which is something that they very obviously like to do on this defense. They don't like to take heads-up gunfights whenever they don't need to. They instead would like to just back up and try to waste time, as we've been mentioning. Against a team like Latam's Last Hope that goes really fast, though, that is difficult. The plan is to do this with tons of intel and C4s. You've got Veronix and Nesta playing tons of info for this In Control roster's 4 C4 lineup as they try to look for that opening pick. And honestly, if they're able to find that, that could be exactly what slows down Latam's Last Hope, which is kind of what you need here, as they're already getting themselves into con, opening up that con wall. Matumbo's in mud. He is pushed up already on this Montane, as In Control are not contesting rafters, and Nesta falls over by 90. The dope call's also gonna force Logger back, and Ivan, peeks right as Logger looks away. The Logger comes back. DMR spam there. Neither of them been found yet. Logger's in a very important position, and Veronix is getting forced out. Millie's dead as well. This is going from bad to worse already, and In Control, they're losing site control. Matumbo's just blocking the rotate, but he has K, so he has to do something here. Rovi, the first pick for In Control, as Trevmac finds that pick, but he is immediately traded. They're just so separated. Every single player on In Control is just so far away from one another. And as that plant starts to go down, Logger's gonna need this C4 to go off. They have a ping on it, but I don't know if Logger's there in time. He's not gonna be able to deny that plan, and that C4 is gonna miss. So now their entire plan is out the window. Veronix is gonna have to look for something and play that long fight with a Reaper, but there is just no way. As Matumbo's pistol might even be more accurate than that. Logger now being pushed out by this Montane, and it is a sweep. As Last Hope gets 4 attacking rounds on this defensive half of In Control's. It really just felt like there was a lot of fear going on In Control's side, not willing to play together and contest space, instead just kind of doing their own separate thing, and they weren't able to make it work as a team. I'm really gonna need to see something on this In Control attack, and I feel like we definitely can, considering it's been one of their strengths in this entire Challenger series.
One of the key differences between the 2 rounds that In Control won and the last round was that Latam's Last Hope did not very easily give In Control an opportunity to respond. When a blitz is in the window, you know, you're always going to have the ability to shotgun it out. C4, like we saw on that cafeteria. But when you have a Monty slowly walking in and you have Ivan slowly creeping up, that speed that Latam's Last Hope work with is calmed down a bit, and they can be a lot more precise with their movements and with what they're doing. I mean, you have Matumbo pushing up. You know, we saw he had eyes on Millie, so now your Pulse is going to have a lot less, you know, ability to roam around the map and do his thing because he is being cornered by that monster, at least being spotted throughout. And as we swap sides, I talked about how In Control's attacks were really their strong suit. They needed to meet that 2 to 4 benchmark. They did, and now will they prove me right? Because overall, throughout the entirety of Challenger Series, we've harped on them. We've said that the attack is where this team really thrives, but they're going to have to go up against a really annoying comp. Denari, Azami, Clash. This is a frustrating comp if In Control do not play together, which they have in the past, but this is going to be a bar that they're going to need to clear to get through the rest of this match.
Time to reset. Fear for In Control. Get started on this attack and turn a page anew. Nessa already getting that con wall open. For In Control, their big deal here, I feel like the big thing they're going to have to worry about is this Clash. You've only got the Nomad to deal with that Clash. No secondary EMPs even to try and disable his shield. So it's going to be difficult. In Control are going to have to find a gap in this round. They're going to have to play around with this clash and try to figure out where Mutombo's playing in order to avoid it at all costs. Rovi curiously has got the FMG. I've always been a Scorpion guy on Denari, and just a Scorpion guy in general. That gun is so much fun up close, but FMG9 undoubtedly pretty good at range. At least better than the Scorpion. We also got Ivan with that AR-15 DMR. And the clash has been spotted inside of Con, so Mutombo's gonna make his way up, try to gather some intel, and he spotted Millie outside of Con. Yang Candel's coming out though, and Mutombo's blind! He just gets shotgunned by Trebmac! A double kill! As the entry is successful, Trev makes his way into E-Box. And that is so much space taken, and such a big problem dealt with early on.
It's just an absolutely beautiful play from In Control. You have the player outside of connector, giving that vision off, so you're able to immediately hit that pinch. The Candela is out. One shotgun blast is the second one gonna hit. You need to win this if you're Kaden, but the air jab goes off. He's able to survive for the time being, but since he gets up, he is unable to find his bearings. And In Control, a wonderful attack. Talked about how that clash would be so irritating to deal with, but they execute a lovely squeeze, and that big problem on the defense is taken care of, and In Control so far don't make me look like a fool. Which is the important thing.
Yeah, of course. I've been trying to figure out like a good Uplay name. Because Jazzman Dot is taken, even Jazzman's taken. Like I can't win out here.
Sorry, that was on me. That was me.
Thanks, bro. Can I have it back? But if that doesn't happen, I might have to hop on the Mutombo wave and do the jazz Narn. You know, I'm changing it right now.
What?
I've already changed my username within the last 30 days. Jazz Narn, like Arno Tombo, because Mutombo's name isn't Mutombo, it's Arno Tombo.
Oh my God, is it?
This is a yeah.
What do you mean everybody knows this?
Yeah, this is a common fact. What?
I did not.
Dude, this was in like my first grade history textbook. How do you not know that Mutombo's name is Arno Tombo?
I get okay. So we were looking at the like graphics for some of them, and it said Arno Tombo, and I thought that was a bug. I thought when I said that, I thought like that was just like a typo or something.
Oh, no.
I didn't. Okay, to be fair, it's very hard to see it through the pixelation of the feed.
Well, that's the point. That's the point. It's like, you know, it's hard to see. It basically looks like an M, but I'm trying to think of a good segue. Give me a second. Phone's working.
You could just let.
Kind of thinking about the last round, like. I was gonna go a rated M attack there from In Control, as they just made it look extremely violent. Ooh, that was good. But Arno Tombo needs to be careful on this clash next time. I think that his innocent play to try and look for info over by Khan in the last round really wasn't that well read, especially considering the E-Box window was shut. Like, that's a little suspicious. But regardless, it happens. I don't think Mutombo's going to make that same mistake again, so we still have to beg the question, how are In Control going to deal with this clash one more time, right? Like, this is still a problem. Just because Mutombo got caught out last round, it doesn't mean that he can't get caught out this round, right? Like, there's a chance that you could find a way to get him, but still no Capitao to really deal with him. You're going to rely on those Nomad air jabs. You're going to rely on the rest of the shield play. There's also the possibility that In Control would just try to ignore him. Veronic's smoking out the Raptors door, trying to look for that peek from Pyrox. They got Nesta right outside. Pyrox is going to do the wise thing and back away as Nesta tries to take control of Raptors here. Tremac's going to fly in as well. So early control taken here by In Control. We've still got plenty of C4s to work with here on the side of Last Hope to deny this blitz. With In Control stacked up on Raptors, all that Last Hope have to do is just watch this. Candela over by Wave side, thrown all the way from Raptors. Will take Rovi tag down just a little bit. He'll be forced to back up to Wave. There's that C4. Rips it. It doesn't throw it just yet. There it is. Doesn't land its mark. And they now know where Rovi is. But Ivan finds Millie. Nesta can't cross here. He's got to be careful of the player nearby. And that's Pyrox, who finds two. Longer dies to the C4. And Latam's Last Hope make this one look easy. Pyrox off that swing gets capitalized on. But Trebmac is spotted by this clash. Can he get him with a shotgun? Doesn't seem like he can just yet. Reaper now in hand. Air jab successful, but that's all that Trebmax's going to get of a chance. It's Ivan claims that last kill. In control, just as they had a grasp on this attack, will lose out the next defense. Not over just yet, though. We're starting to see signs of life from In Control that we really want to see here.
I don't know if you could tell, but In Control were itching to go fast. They were trying their best to get in Rafters, get in IT, get inside server. Everything was just screaming, we want to get in your face. And so what does the Azami do? Keep a barrier. And then another keep a barrier. And then another keep a barrier. Physical barriers that the attack cannot get through, that the DMRs are going to have to shred through. And so that's causing a lot of rotations. You see the Blitz trying to work through the rotate with the Ying, and then suddenly going over to the top of Aqua Stairs with the help of that Ying. And so In Control constantly trying to adapt. That's something they're very good at. They're mid-round adaptations, but they're not able to get the entry. They're not able to isolate the Warden just hanging out on the stairs, and that means that Pyrox can then extend and find a nice little crossfire, just putting that attack straight into the dirt.
A little bit of an adaptation. No shield from In Control. They didn't bring it on the first attacking round. Plenty of vert as well with Millie and Nesta on the Buck and the Ram, respectively. You've got Trevmac on the 0. No clash, thankfully, for In Control. They did not have a lineup suited for it. Expected. Did their homework. They did their homework. Thrown out the entire top floor. Realize that it's clear. Start to make their way through. It's all gonna be about speed here because there's so much utility meant to stall out In Control. You've got the Goyo canisters and the 2 brows just to make things even slower, and you've got Pyrox playing on this vending fall off. The moment that he's spotted, Caden's gonna help him out with his double swing. They're trying to set up that entry, and Veronix might just be walking into it. But Pyrox has been spotted. I don't know if he's aware of that. Now get droned and get tagged up from kitchen, but he's gotta be careful. Swings out though. Instead of going deeper in, Millie was on that flank regardless, tried to get away, but Pyrox loses his life. I thought Caden was gonna be there for the swing, but he will simply back up for now. Potentially looking for that pick later, but as he's flashed out, he actually goes for the peek, and Millie finds him. In Control are going to take advantage of this. They're going to hack cams, and they're going to start to take space. Rovi possibly looking for a play, but that is 2 dead on the side of Last Hope, and In Control can now start to make vert.
Didn't even waste a ton of time either.
Ooh!
Oh, Matumbo just kind of accepts his fate, prone under the boogie. It's Ivan for 1, but you have so many more bodies to go through. This Ram making so much headway onto the site, and there's nothing Latam's Last Hope can do. It's Rovi against the world. He's gonna throw out a smoke canister, but blind due to the flashbang. This is gonna start things off. 45 seconds, and now Rovi with the vertical up above, with the diffuser down, with players right in front of him. He does not have a chance at winning it, and it's In Control, staying within an arm's reach of Latam's Last Hope.
4-5. We thought this game was going to be an any percent speed run here for X-Team Cruelty for Latam's Last Hope, but now In Control have shown a completely different side of them on this attack. And that's what we wanted to see. That attack is what we've been talking about, where me, you, and Jonah have been talking about on the desk. It's what this entire game is going to rely upon. And for them to do it on this map, if In Control can slot themselves 3 more rounds on this attack and win Latam's Last Hope's map, imagine what they could do on Kafe once they're on a map that's a little bit more difficult to attack. They're still comfortable. We're gonna need to see a little bit more out of In Control though, as Last Hope are still in the lead here, and they're still, it seems like they're in control of this game, I would say, but they're starting to lose it just a little bit, as Inc are setting themselves up for something a little different. You've got Nesta on the Monty, but I think he's going to swap off of that, and they're going to go back to a really similar setup. Makes a lot of sense here, considering that looks like Last Hope are going to continue to play this sort of on-site anchor, just was kind of my issue with that last round. Not enough stall up above when you know that Ram is on the board. They're in control. They're going to look to do something very similar for Last Hope. I'm kind of hoping to see a little bit more aggression on that top floor to try and make up any lost time that they might have.
Swapping mags.
If you think back to vending stairs, if Caden is able to potentially immediately swing just to get the trade onto Pyrox and not wait about 5-10 seconds before then swinging, I think you're going to find a lot more success, because that's the idea of the trades is, yeah, you may lose something, but you gain something in the process. As of right now, the whole plan, just use the buck, use the ram, use the Deimos, and just make as much vert as you can onto the site, because as much as the roam failed, the anchors on site did not have much of a better time because of how good Nesta and Millie were. You don't see Pyrox extending into cafeteria a little farther. It's mainly just going to be into cargo this time, so a different area that In Control are going to have to attack.
Yeah, like last time, we'll just fall off of this. Not losing 2 bodies at the start, though. Not just yet, at least. Either side having a gunfight to speak of. Tremec starts to open up that cargo wall. Caden's found himself in that bending corner. Still definitely some off-site pressure here for In Control. As they're trying to play on those stairs. First gas babe denied by Rovi, or rather, by Veronix. And there goes the vert. Logger tagged up, though, from that vert down below. He has to be careful! And Rovi finds Veronix just as Ivan lands the C4. It's a 3 versus 5 start, but this time in the favor of Latam's Last Hope. The smoke swinging on out. Trebmac takes a ton of damage, but he gets Rovi down. That is important. Now you've cleared out that staircase. Really risky vault there from Millie, though. Gets away with it. 50 seconds. Keep your head on a swivel here, In Control. You aren't out of this round just yet. Shooting those Goyo canisters as well is pivotal. This execution, though, has to start formulating, because there is nothing that In Control have open except for hatches. They don't even have the outside wall opened up just yet. And now Trevmac will drop into Animus. This is where the round lives or dies, V.
And especially if you drop the hatch, you're going to be able to create a little bit of a default area. Is there going to be any destruction? Tremac is on such little HP. Is anything going to happen? It's not, and the fuser goes down.
What? How have they managed to do that? The C4 missed? I don't know what happened. But like you said, Tremac was so low. If there was any opportunity to swing, it would have easily killed him. But both Millie and Tremac are stuck in Animus. They just need to stay alive and trust Nesta up above, who gets his second, but he's being thwarted. He tries to go for the third onto Matumbo, but that retake upstairs, Tremac's gonna have to make a move, but he swings out too far, and Matumbo gets him. Millie now has to choose which fight he wants to take, but it's Matumbo to win the trade out by Ivan. Tragedy as almost In Control having that attack. Latam's Last Hope unable, or rather In Control unable to hold them off. Trevmac and Millie were just so low inside of Animus, and honestly, they were stuck. They didn't get the wall open at all. Either site wall was shut. So that hatch drop was a little bit of a risky play, and the fact that the C4 didn't kill Trevmac, I mean, it's not luck, but we will say that the fact that he even lived might have been.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that luck just ran out towards the end.
Yeah, you're making the best out of a pretty bad situation with your person doing the plant being on such little HP. But I think there's one thing that the round lives or dies by, and it is Nesta on the Ram.
Yeah.
The Ram in the previous round, not this one, the one before that, had such a massive impact. It led to 2 kills, I think potentially the third with Rovi. And then in this round, you're not finding as much success from it. You don't initially get those 2 entries, so you don't start with an advantage, but you get the diffuser down. And you have Nesta with an angle being held, but winning the fight against Nesta, killing him and taking away a huge player in the round, suddenly just swings the pendulum massively into the corner of Latam's Last Hope, because you only have to worry about the players inside of Animus, and the trade from Matumbo works perfectly, and they're able to go on map point. And we've been here before. Adam, in control in the previous game up against Foot Locker Spinus found themselves on map point, but were unable to carry it out. And for LATAM's Last Hope, you cannot risk Kafe. We haven't seen Kafe from them, but we know that in control are confident on this map. You need to finish it out in regulation.
Yeah, I think that in control winning this map on Nighthaven just completely throws a spanner in the works for LATAM's Last Hope. Which is why I feel like in control are desperate to win this out here. Losing this map could be the series, honestly, for LATAM or for in control if they can't cobble something up on Kafe. Entirely possible that we'll see Lair as well. For in control, this is a map that they're experienced on. Cannot count them out of it just because of the results that we're seeing, but no matter how hard in control try to catch up, it just never really feels like they're able to go back to back on those rounds. That's exactly what they're going to need to do here. They've swapped their lineup quite a bit. They've got a Monty, a Glaz, a Flores, and 2 hard breachers. As compared, they didn't have Logger last time on this Flores. They had a Nomad. They had tons of destruction rather than dealing with the rather soft destruction rather than dealing with hard destruction. But again, as we've harped on in basically every single attacking round, upstairs, the clash is up and is going to be a problem if it isn't dealt with. LATAM's Last Hope already starting to feel a little bit of pressure as Nessa's gotten both outside walls opened up. Trevmac has made his way into the building over by Mudroom and is looking to force Pyrox out of rafters with Logger in tow with those Rotera drones.
One thing that is missing on the attacking lineup is that Ying. She can't be played. She's banned out. It was a pretty pivotal part of the first time that we saw in control attack where they were able to flush Matumbo out. The shotgun was a lethal weapon in Trevmac's hands, but now kind of deprived himself of lethality here. He's on the Monty. Very strong operator, but it means that you're going to have a much slower at attack. And I think that's going to allow LATAM's Last Hope to actually be the aggressors. You take out Millie, and now it's Ivan for 2, and LATAM's Last Hope are knocking on the door of victory.
Well, if I knew that their plan was to just walk in and basically do what they did that forced them to lose the last round, I wouldn't have said anything, but the 3 versus 5, it's a lot more difficult of a scenario here, and Trevmac is stranded because of this clash. Veronix, however, manages to find one inside the site. Is forcing the clash back. You're gonna need something big out of him here as Pyrox finds 2, and Veronix is found by Rovi. LATAM's Last Hope, I mean, that was probably the easiest defense that they've had this entire game, as Trevmac and Co just walked in. I mean, this is exactly what cost them to lose the last round, was just taking rafters and kind of just IT and just, okay, let's go. They did it at a faster pace this time, though, and it didn't help at all. It didn't really feel like the element of surprise was there. I felt like maybe just isolating that rafters guy and getting out might have been a little bit better, but regardless, that's how the cookie crumbles. Going over to Kafe, I will say, I saw some signs there from in control on their attacks. They looked good, but you're going to need a little bit more there. And I'm looking towards their defense on Kafe as well to be sort of that proving grounds, because they're going to need anything that they can get. And it's a good map for them. So we'll have to show you that after this, though. We'll be cutting to a short break to give these players a little bit time to reset and myself to get some water. But we'll be back for map number 2, me and Light Rose. Don't go anywhere.
Did I get a little more breathing room potentially to... I also am kind of floundering with my words. Like, I'm not...
7-4, last hope for LATAM. They take the win on Labs and are now one map away. Just a single 7 rounds away from going to the NAL, and in many cases, returning to the NAL. A strong start for them, Adam, and that really was what characterized the first half of this map. 3-0, LATAM's last hope get off to a strong start, and despite a bit of a comeback there from In Control, despite the effort that they did put in, it was still a very convincing win at 7-4 for LATAM's last hope.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, a lot of that just came down to the clash play that I felt like went unguarded, unfounded, and kind of just wasn't taken advantage of in the way that I expected. The way that In Control handled their attack the first time around when they dealt with the clash felt a lot stronger because they were taking space on other parts of the map. But then from there on out, on those upstairs attacks specifically, it just felt like they were walking into rafters, and LATAM's Last Hope had the best operator lineup to counter that probably in existence, right? Like, you had the clash, you had the smoke, you had the Azami to hold all of that down. So it really didn't feel like it was much of a problem for Last Hope on their defense. I'm kind of hoping that Kafe, we see something a little bit different. There's a lot of avenues to attack from on most of the sites in Kafe, but Kafe is notoriously difficult on attack, so we'll have to see if that'll scare In Control at all.
Well, one thing we talk a lot about with Last Hope, and V, I know we'll talk about this shortly, right? You have Pyrox and you have Ivan, the players that generally get the most talking time or the most airtime. Mutombo on the shield, both on attack and defense, really just working together well to give this team all that synergy.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail right on the head with synergy. That's what this team can be known for because they've stuck together for so long that Mutombo is going to be an extension, an arm of the team. He's always going to have someone right behind his back, and that's a very hard thing for In Control to deal with. I mean, their strength is when they're able to set up these crossfires, locate a small hole that they could just penetrate as the attack. But they weren't just given the opportunity because Mutombo was taking so much space with the clash.
Well, Adam, when we look at In Control, and I know you brought it up, the attacking side, strangely, something that they do better than defense, at least before they start making any changes, when they start to adapt, right? It just seems like their attacks are better. You mentioned the difficulty that it can come with attacking on Kafe. They pick that map. They're feeling ready for that map. What does this team need to do to make sure that LATAM's Last Hope cannot have that same strong start again?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, right, like, this shouldn't be much of a hurdle for In Control if they're going onto a Kafe attack, like you said, when on a map that they're confident on, and on a side that they've shown dominance on in some aspects. But I think that letting Ivan and letting, like, all these individual plays happen around Ivan and all these players, that's going to need to be dealt with here on this map.
All right, here it is. Kafe, LATAM's Last Hope. A win here gets them that final spot in the NAL. In Control, looking to send it to a map 3. Back to you, Adam.
So much, Jonah. Here we are with map number 2. Lair is on the horizon, and In Control, they could do something that I don't think they've actually done so far in Challenger Series, which is go to a map 3. I don't think that any of their games have actually gone to that map 3. It's all, oh, actually, no, you know what? They had 2 games. It was against F5 in the group stage round 1 and against Fisher in round 3 after going 3-0. So in the playoff bracket, they have yet to have a map 3, either losing 0-2 or winning 2-0. Like you mentioned, V, that curse of winning in the upper bracket and then losing both of your promotion games, it's in the back of their minds for sure.
Yeah, maybe it's something where you're playing Siege 2 days in a row, you're getting, stratted. It's hard to pinpoint something down, like I said, because it is such an odd statistic through all the different regions and all the different teams. Couldn't happen once, but for In Control, they need to win Kafe. This is their map choice before we could potentially go to Lair and then In Control, if they, feel so inclined, win it out. But it's going to be very hard because LATAM's Last Hope showed that they are no slouches, and their attacks aren't that bad either. They weren't really, tested too much. I think they had to go through the motions on Nighthaven Labs. We talked about how good their defaults are, and with Kafe being such an old map, you're probably going to be able to rely on players like Sledge and Lion. But I look towards Kaden and Mutombo. The Ying was a constant threat over on Nighthaven Labs, and I wonder if it'll transfer onto here.
We hyped up In Control in their attack. Let's see what they can do on their first 6 defensive rounds against Latam's Last Hope's attack. Really interested in the pulse ban. That is something that you do not see every day, but it kind of does play well into In Control, who have been running that pulse. I wouldn't say all the time. Mac has spotted the Deimos White. This is a call out that they have. And now the first pick falls into the hands of In Control in this defense. Nesta somehow finding a shotgun kill. I don't know where that happened. Impact there. Trip back! Oh my goodness! Nesta just shuts down Kaden, but my god, the range that Deimos just got on the Mossberg is absurd. I think it was Kino that said it best. You gotta trust that shotgun or else you're never gonna get a kill with it. And that's exactly why. So Trebek goes down. You lose the Solus, which is actually a great pick in isolation. But now with Last Hope going for this execute potentially, as the Ying is down acted. So Mutombo probably gonna slow this entire thing down, and Last Hope gonna have to try something else.
You have the player on the stairs. Not actually being pushed just yet by Ivan. I don't know if he's 100% certain even if there is a player down here to begin with. Vironix is flashed, the shield swinging towards the door, probably to preemptively destroy the Kiva barricade. It's such an awkward gunfight on both ends. Vironix is able to find Pyrex and Mutombo. This is a round for the books, Adam. And Ivan in the 1v3 with 53 seconds left. What a way to start out Kafe. Oh my goodness.
Control, In Control. There you go. It was a great defense, like you said, just played that so well. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I've been saying on the Labs defense is In Control, they need to grow a pair. I'll just say it. They need to grow a pair on this defense and just start fighting people. It feels like all the time on Labs, they were just giving up space for free. It never felt like the pressure was truly there. They phantom pressured the hell out of it. Like they had players there. But that's it. That's all we really saw. That time around, fighting that roam directly head-on with Trebmax's information was just so perfectly played. You couldn't have asked for anything better. Now as we go over to that reading site, Castle is not here. Unbanned, but not here. Interesting.
Yeah, I wonder, so obviously we have the pulse ban. It seems like Millie is kind of do that job of the pulse. You got the echoes probably going to be able to give information on the 3rd floor. I want to say it's kind of a top floor hold and a little bit of a bottom floor hold, something we usually would see with the pulse. And so what do Latam's Last Hope do to potentially counter something like this? They have the Deimos, very common roam clear operator. Cadent on the solid snake, someone who's kind of been in and out of a lot of games. We're not seeing him extremely consistently. I know Volsper really enjoys Solid Snake, but nobody else has really picked it up quite like he has. And I think going after a couple of these other players on Solid Snake is probably going to be preferred option when you enter that 3rd floor.
They're going heavy on that roam clear. The Deimos, the Lion, the Snake, like they are trying their best to find these isolated picks. It's a great adaptation for Last Hope. In theory, obviously the one weakness with Snake is that he can't see above, so I'm gonna rely a little bit on Ivan to get a detailed idea of where these operators are. Still. Oh man, this is a dangerous hop out!
How?
And he misses the fatal shot!
Hold on.
Rovi, yeah, nice try, buddy. Oh, that is so rough. That is like, Nesta was built for that engagement. He had the M870 in pocket, hopped out the window with the ping. There might be a second player found as Logger is caught lacking by Ivan. So much intel here for Last Hope. And Veronix TKs! Millie falls next. Veronix is going to need a 6K in this round to do something, but Latam's Last Hope just get away with robbery, as that is a highly unsuccessful reading defense. Back to the drawing board, it seems like, for Inc., as Last Hope cleared that out so well.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how Nesta doesn't get that kill. He had the crosshair firmly on Rovi, and I thought he shot. I don't know, maybe my ears are deceiving, but boy, these first 2 rounds, just back to back, going from pistol in cigar to a team kill and a failed M870 hop out, like, whew, can we get back to to normality, maybe? I know that for In Control, probably you would like to win this cleanly. You don't want to have those team kills, which kind of degrade your mental, because it's something we need to keep in our minds, where In Control have already lost to the first map. Then you have some really sloppy mistakes that cost you, not cost you, but add up in a round, and it slowly wears you down. It's going to take a really firm hand, and I think that's going to be Trevmac, you know, the leader of this team, the man who's kind of brought everybody together, saw the 3/5 of pack runner. It's going to be up to him to make sure that this team's mental is set straight.
Yeah, I think after winning a round like that and then just losing it equally as hard is going to definitely play some mind games on you, but I like the sight switch up. It's a little bit of a mental reset. As In Control might have to be prepared for this bake stack, because there's 4 people lined up behind the shield. They are literally playing the way Rainbow Six Siege was intended to be played, like just stacking up outside the door behind the shield and walking in like it's yeah, like an E3 trailer. That's awesome. But they made their way into bake. It's an easy piece of control to gather, but you can see that In Control are playing a pretty open floor plan here.
Swapping mags.
Ooh. Nesta's gonna get opened up by Rovi, who is, he's typing. He is trying to talk In Control on this defense. Drops the haha, and Nesta, who has been hot and cold, not like the major winner, the 2-time major winner, but he's been in and out of this game. Fortunately, this will not be the round for him.
Rovi's definitely going to be regretting that. Not so haha anymore. Yeah, he says it.
That is so peak.
Oh, Trevak Veronix, though. Getting some apiece, and now with Caden and Pyrox, Millie's just playing around this pillar. Not as patient as you want somebody to do. He cleans up on that kill. I really like the patience coming out from Millie, because you have a man advantage. You know, your team clearly is back in the game. You swing that. Because you feel like, oh, I can win it. He doesn't, and he gives himself a very good chance at winning a gunfight like that, leaving Pyrox with, quite frankly, nothing to his name. He's gonna have to pick up the diffuser in the site. The 4 players are scattered all across the map. We're simply just gonna have to wait this one out and see if, I don't know, maybe form some magic, but it doesn't seem like that's gonna happen.
Love the patience here from In Control. Just a completely different playstyle from what we're seeing. They are so in and out, like understanding when to slow down and when to speed it up, as opposed to where on Nighthaven it felt like they were just really timid the whole time on that defense, playing it slowly, allowing Last Hope to take a ton of control and backing up. Now they're seriously starting to consider what they need to do. They're starting to consider the pace that they need to play at, rather than just kind of randomizing it. And In Control, I mean, they're finding success now. That's 2 defensive round wins in a row. An Echo ban. So, no Castle ban, no Azami ban, not even a Solus, a Thorn ban, maybe? But Echo. Now, Echo has 3 drones now, so that makes sense.
I want to say, I think it's because they were expecting a potential site like this. We are going to have an extension up onto that 3rd floor. And we saw that In Control played Echo. So you're going to have that information of the 3 drones that he recently got in the past year. And with, you know, the Mozzie, with some of these other, if you potentially bought a BP, that's so much information that Last Hope are going to have to work around. And so you take out an Echo, it forces In Control to bring something else, potentially, that Thorn. And now, maybe this is where Latam's Last Hope are going to be able to get a proper third floor clear, something that kind of didn't really exist last time.
Sure. The Echo's great in so many different scenarios. Like you can just throw 3 drones around the map and have them all lurk. You can have 2 on site and 1 roam. Like honestly, one of the best changes they've made to Echo in a long time. He is so good now and actually playable. But they need to find their intel elsewhere. They're gonna need to find their plant denial elsewhere. We know that LATAM's Last Hope are no strangers to a direct. And this site, you could direct just about as easily as any site in the game. You just hop in through that red hallway on the 2nd floor, make yourself a little bit of an opening in the corner of mining, and start to get that plant down with the coverage from the mining window. It really is just that simple. But you're not going to do that just yet, because they need to establish a little bit of control over by that CS side, that cigar shop side. Now, if they choose to push any further, that's completely up to them. I don't know if this is true, but it looks like Veronix is already backed up from Piano. And Millie has been spotted B1. Nade chucked right at him. He's gonna hop away, but it is so late. Millie chose to answer his phone there, unaware that he was already spotted. And that's an opening pick here for LATAM's Last Hope.
You'd be pre-fire to high heaven, and for Ivan to get both as well. He has nobody around him. It is 1 man up against those 2 players. It's a good idea in practice because potentially you're going to be able to get a trade, but you're just delayed enough that Ivan can recover and a trade happens, cementing LATAM's Last Hope's ability to win this round. I don't want to say that it feels like Ivan just completely cracked it wide open, but if he dies, In Control are really able to set their sights back onto that 3rd floor, and there's a lot less pressure coming at them from White Stairs. So a really, really good play from Ivan.
2. Again, In Control, despite their strengths on this defense so far, it can all just be split up by a play. It's a little fragile. It's concerning. If LATAM's Last Hope can just get away with getting a 2K on a double swing from Ivan and win the round off of that alone, like, that is rough. It just never feels like In Control have any elasticity on the defense. If they lose a player in the round, it can really just snowball all the way into a round loss. There's so many scenarios where this has happened throughout In Control's Challenger Series run. Gonna need to see a switch up here, especially against a team like LATAM's Last Hope, who have, I'll call him the hole puncher, like those little hole punchers that you make in a paper. That's Ivan, right? Like, he just goes wherever he wants and clears a path. He carves a path for his team. And In Control don't really have a direct way to deal with that. It kind of just feels like if they get the opening engagement, then they're smooth sailing. But if Ivan is able to get one, it doesn't feel like In Control stand much of a chance of coming back. So gotta be careful of what positions you need to fill here for In Control. We're still up 2 rounds on this defense. But if Last Hope can continue to stack these rounds up, this could be a difficult attacking half for In Control.
One of the things about Labs was In Control found themselves at a deficit on their, less preferred site, but they were chasing that throughout the entirety of the 2nd half, and they were much less comfortable on Labs than potentially something like Kafe, and it really showed. So anytime they would try to, get around, LATAM's Last Hope would immediately fire back with one of their own. And if you start off with, that 4-2 split that you really do prefer on something like the defense, especially on a map like Kafe, then I think you set yourself up for success much better in the future. You don't really have any wiggle room to give anything up. You've already lost the 1st map. You lose here, and it's done. You have to wait another year to potentially go to Pro League, and I don't think any of these players are really hedging their bets on, a Pro League pickup, given that we have cemented a lot of rosters, at least for Stage 1.
C4! Cadence gets found! Millie played that so patiently. Let Matumbo run over the breach. And there's another one. Almost claims Ivan off that window. This is good utility play here from In Control. Now it's all about keeping control of this situation that they have found themselves in. Ivan is on the prowl looking for this pick, and Logger is isolated inside a freeze with no help nearby, but Millie gets the trade onto Pyrox. Matumbo's also found Veronix from behind. How is he allowed to do this? 3 for Matumbo on the baby. Swashbuckling his way to victory in this round. Nades out Nesta, who manages to survive, and Millie stacks up a triple of his own, but Matumbo is still counting. 4 for him. Now it's all down to Millie, but he gets 4 too. It's a battle of the best now, as Ivan is up against Millie. Makes that plant. Millie sprints across and takes some space. Ivan's now been spotted inside of dining, but he'll rotate away. Start to go for that plant again. Hops off of it. 20 seconds. Millie has no utility to deny this. Ivan may go for the kill. Faking him out, but Millie holding strong. There's a camera on him. Ivan's great in these scenarios, but so is Millie. TCSG in hand, Ivan swings, but Millie finds the ace! It was concerning at first. Matumbo stacked up 4 bodies over on that white take, but Millie responds in kind. 5 on the board for the man that we have been saying so much about this tournament.
It's crazy that he's getting all this done. We're talking about Matumbo and Millie just stacking body after body after body. And I think he plays that 1v1 beautifully, because Ivan is trying to throw so many little mental tricks. Like 3 fakes, a rotate, and then a rotate back, and then going towards the laundry rotate and firing a couple shots there. He does not budge. Millie keeps his eyes on that door frame the entire time. It's like trying to trick somebody, a brick wall, in a way. It's a beautiful play by him, and it's an incredibly crucial round for In Control, because LATAM's last home, they would win reading, which is a site that was really something that they cemented in the previous rounds, and it would force In Control to, at best, get a 3-3 split, something that, before the last round, I talked about was a very bad thing for them. Crazy stuff happening on Kafe.
Yeah, 4-2 advantage is exactly what you need to try and close this out on attack. So for In Control, a lot of pressure still remains on them. You have to wonder if that round... I mean, I don't even know if you could chalk after that. That was, like, incredible to watch. Matumbo gets 4, Millie gets 4, like, them going 1v1. If I'm In Control and Last Hope, I'm on both sides going, like, yes, like, that was insane. Like, we can win this still. You got Tremac on the Solus, who has been quite a problem for Last Hope. Irex is already taken down to half HP as well. HP advantages, kind of what you need against a team like LATAM's Last Hope, who will play their aggressiveness and play it at all times. One thing that I am concerned about is they've got a lot of bodies downstairs. Both Nesta and Trevmac playing in this position. If Last Hope don't even push this, this is kind of going to be all for naught. Because it seems like they aren't. Last Hope are looking for this horizontal take. They've got themselves repelled on windows. Matumbo might just hop in here. He cleared a ton of those Kibas with that grenade. Ivan has one in his line of sight. Nesta and Trevmac need to play this trade. Nesta knows something. Trevmac gonna start to make his way. But Ivan finds that first pick and isolates Trevmac as well, who will back up into shop. Ivan is aware of this. First pick in the favor of Last Hope.
Ivan is just the playmaker. While all of this is happening, Caden is able to find Veronix. I think a lot of the round now comes down to if Trevmac can put a stop to Ivan on this bottom floor. There is a 4v2 happening on the actual site itself, or on the 3rd floor, and I think that's so important. Ooh. Ivan caught? I am a bit confused, but it might be a little bit too late. But as Pyrox goes down, that completely evens things up, and LATAM's Last Hope, the window on the execute has closed.
Trevmac baited the sound. That's how he got that pick there, but it's not gonna matter if Millie gets taken down. Caden's still really low. C4 ripped into trash, isn't gonna find anybody. You've still got Trev Mack downstairs. Logger finds Kaden. Just back up here, Logger. Wait for your teammate to come for this assist. If they drop Matumbo, that's Case, and Logger wins it. Double kill here. Rovy's really low, but he finds Logger. Trev Mack gets the trade, and in control. Find the 4 defensive rounds that they needed. It was looking shaky with Ivan having Trev Mack on a leash downstairs, but he manages to get away from that situation with that sound bait and in control. They hold firm on this defense. 4-2 split is exactly what you need to try and send this to map 3.
I think this is the map we were expecting for Pro League. We finally get down to the nitty gritty, the 1v1s to decide. They're on coin flips, if you want to call them, and it's in control to win both of them. And this entire map was on a tightrope before, with being tied up, it could really fall either way, but in control play it patiently. They're really good individual players, and they show it to you, to me, and to the audience. They go up on 4-2 and now go to their favored side. Kafe is a little bit more difficult to attack than something like Nighthaven Labs, but I am still very confident that in control probably feel a lot better on their attack.
Big fan of that Ying
Attackers
ban.
need to locate and defuse as many
Honestly.
bombs as they can.
Such a strong operator on attack in Kafe. So many rushes you can do with that. But now, V, it's time. We've been talking about this probably since the start of the
Bomb
game.
located by attackers.
In control, on attack, on their map pick. I'm expecting greatness after what we've been going through. But again, 4 defensive rounds. They have so much space to work with. They want to send us to Lair. This is the best opportunity that they have to do it. The plan seems like they want to isolate with Blackbeard and the Solid Snake. Trev Mack has hovered the Solid Snake many times, but this is the time that he's actually sticking it. Yeah, we're gonna have to see if they can find that ISO. Maybe onto a player like Ivan, playing below with a C4. Maybe on Matumbo even. He's probably gonna be playing with C4 below at some point. They're looking for that opening engagement to get them started.
Let's see. Just send up the site. One to make sure you've got all your ducks in a row. Just wonder where we're going to see this first engagement, because you have Nesta on Blackbeard. You've got Trev Mack spotting 3 on that scanner and already zipping in, but the C4s that you harped about, it gets a kill onto Millie. It's not your Blackbeard, so maybe things could be turned around, but it's still not the start of the round that you really would like when you're executing on that top floor.
One of their targets is Kaden. They tried to get him, but they couldn't, and as he backs away, he's gonna be even more of a threat on this flank. They've still got players to clear above. Onyx is on this white flank. In control, just moving as a pack right now. Not deterred by Millie going down, but that is certainly going to hurt. One of those early C4s just ripped, and finding that pick means that Latam's Last Hope don't actually have to do much in the rest of this round. They're going to wait for In Control to try and figure something out. And even with this top floor control established, there's no vert to work with. Unless you have Snake pick up a soft breach charge, that's about it. That's your only bit of soft destruction that you have to work with. So for In Control, this entire lineup is segmented around finding picks inside of the bomb site, and that's what they're gonna need to do, even without that vert. Still trying to make some with that DMR, but Pyrox just slams Logger through that hole. Trev Mack trying to find a pick back, but for now, that is a 3 versus 5 advantage for Last Hope.
It's a crazy play from Pyrox. Unfortunately for In Control, they just don't have a lot of map control that they can flex over. There's somebody right downstairs. Rovy's able to get a kill. That drops another player, but maybe Nesta can find a little spot that he can put that diffuser down. But Last Hope are circling the wagon, and the kill onto the Blackbeard might cement it. As Last Hope, they get their defense started off with a win.
Yeah, just lack of soft destruction, I feel like, for In Control. They were really not able to do much with that top floor. They were just focused entirely on trying to get that pick at the start and kind of snowball off of that. It just didn't happen. Millie just ate a C4. Like, that's kind of rough. If you're going to build your entire lineup around getting the first pick, you ought to get the first pick. It just never felt like that happened. And after that, In Control were just completely out of the round as Last Hope just fell back, played inside the site, and they were completely safe to do so. Now you've got Nesta kind of learning from that lesson, bringing the Ram, and as we go into this middle floor bomb site of mining and dining, a little bit of the same here for In Control, it feels like. They're going to swap the Blackbeard out for the Blitz. You've still got Logger on that dope. Trebmac now, actually, this entire lineup switching. We might have a rush fee. Looking at this lineup, the Raura to seal off the mining doors, potentially, or actually any door for that matter. Going for that plant in the corner. I see the vision. They call me the Oracle for a reason. Let's see if it works.
I don't know if you need to be an Oracle to see that coming. There is, I mean, Finca Glaz. Okay. Or Adam Jasmine. Foreseen a rush. And to me, the question is, how is LATAM's Last Hope going to respond to this? Currently, the only player who's actually on that site is going to be Roby, probably a good operator that you want because the Tubarao is going to be able to throw that Zoto and slow things down. We're not seeing that incredibly quick pace from In Control, as it seems that it could be an extension onto that second floor. Never mind, there it is, and there is the Blitz combined with the smoke.
So the smoke is popped, but Roby doesn't realize that Trebmac is already in, and there's the plant in the corner. The Raura goes through. Logger finds the first pick on Matumbo, making his way up red, and there is no denial. The smoke is a complete bait, and now Last Hope on this retake. They dealt with the shield, though. Millie in the sight. He gets two. Impossible. How does he win that? Finally gets down there by Kaden and finished off. It's not a completely lost round for this defensive retake, as Kaden now starting this long arm. Is anyone there to deny it? The cover's there for Logger, but nobody is denying the plant! Are you kidding me? The long arm! You cannot lose that! In Control!
I am speechless. That is an incredibly winnable position. I mean, surely he's seen from the window as well. The player up on the top floor. I don't know how you fumble that as In Control. You have to admire just absolutely sticking it, because there is a world in which you go off, you try to fight the players on the window, but just having the confidence to stay on it, knowing that your best chance is to stick. Whew. You just have to think that he's sweating bullets in that scenario. I go back to the mental, Adam. We have seen a lot of sloppy mistakes from In Control. They've been able to take those coin flip rounds, but the team kill, that last round of letting the long arm happen, these stack up, and for In Control, who now face a tied game, that lead is gone. You still have to soldier on, because once again, if you lose this, you're done. LATAM's Last Hope make it to Pro League.
Just a home run rush from In Control. Just batted away.
Cover me.
And yet, doesn't work. Have they exhausted all their options just yet? It doesn't feel like they have. They've still shown signs of strength from In Control on this attack, but that is gonna sting for a while. Sends, hops into dining. Millie's gonna hop through this. They're gonna try and isolate the clear inside of VIP, but they are unable to do so, and they don't clear. Freeze! Rovi finds both Logger and Veronix. The trade is finally there, but you have dropped 3 bodies off of this. In Control. They're not playing like that tier 1 team right now. They're not playing like they want to make Pro League. C4 just lands right underneath Nesta's feet. It couldn't have been planted more properly. And now Trevnak swinging his hammer in a 1 versus 4 has nothing left to show on this attack. We're looking at a 5-4 last hope lead. And it is just disaster for In Control.
Trevnak is just a dead man walking. And honestly, Adam, this feels about as dire as it can get. In Control, let a massive mistake happen. A blitz rush just fails in every conceivable way. And your opponent has now gone on a 3-round streak and has taken the lead. This feels like the round. If In Control let this one slip by with a ban coming through that they can somehow help their attack, I don't know if it is possible for them to mount a 2-round comeback and get to overtime. As small as that seems, we've seen In Control just make sloppy play after sloppy play, and it costs them big. And on such a massive stage for them, the lights are very bright. Can they turn things around? They're going to have to attack reading. They're going to need the soft destruction. That was the one thing that killed them. Last time they went here, we're already seeing a ram being shown. Surely they stick it.
Starting to get a little nervous here for In Control. They've lost their 4-2 advantage that they had built up for themselves, winning on defense. We said a lot about In Control in these Kafe attacks, and they have yet to find one, even after the post plant. To hope for quite a lot here. It seems like they're gonna switch things up. Got no more blitz. It seems like the rush utility is all gone. They've got plenty of flank watch to work with. Lager and Nesta have the vert. They're going to be doing a pretty stock standard reading upstairs take this time around. Try and hope that they can maybe pressure the site a little bit harder than they did last time whenever they got this top floor control.
Device is set! Shotgun going live.
Placing down your preliminary util. You have those air jabs in case somebody wants to hop out of a window. Maybe with a shotgun, who knows? We've seen it before, but it's all gonna be about what can you do on that top floor. How can Pyrox and Caden hold down the fort? At Blitz, or excuse me, sorry, the Blackbeard has been a very pivotal part of these attacks. It's actually not here. It's going to be mainly how you use those frag grenades, how you've destroyed potentially some utility from Trevmak. Mainly just guns, Adam. Can In Control outshoot Last Hope? Not the way you want it. It's Pyrox finding another entry. And we said at the beginning of the match, we needed to see Logger show up. Maybe he isn't, but Trevmak finds the trade to change the tide.
That's a ram gone, though. But you've lost Pyrox as well as Caden, so that's a smoke dead. And you still have Nesta on the sledge, so not all is lost here. In Control have taken this top floor with relatively good speed, but now Rovi is going to be a big problem on this run out. Our observer spotting this one. And Rovi will shoot the air jet, but will back away for now. This is an opportunity for later. The white player's still on that rappel. Ivan gets found through the vert. In Control in the 4 versus 2 now have to be aware of this potential retake. Rovi now re-hitting this run out. And Matumbo gonna walk up the stairs, but Veronix manages to catch him. Why would you repel in? I don't think he meant to do that. I think he meant to go into snow. But now Rovi's in a 1 versus 3. I'm praying that that's a silly joke, and yeah, it is. Nesta up above with the second kill. There's no way Veronix intended to do that. I feel like he meant to try and to hit spacebar on the snowbalk rather than in the window. But In Control, they tie things up. They get their first attacking round on Kafe.
And I think I'm just kind of puzzled at Matumbo as well, walking up white stairs, because it seems like he was trying to
Just bad timing.
sync
there,
things
yeah.
up with Rovi, but
Yeah,
Rovi wasn't
yeah.
ready yet, and Matamba put it's kind of a footnote in what is a
Attackers need to
very,
locate
very
and defuse
good
bomb.
round from In Control, who take a heavy death right on the chin. You lose Logger, and after all the previous rounds, after how I've talked about the mental, they turn things around. It's Trevmac to lead the charge, get the trade, push everybody off that third floor, and you still have the sledge. You're able to get the bomb down. At mid-round, we've kind of seen lacking from In Control, those adaptations that they can be very good at. They finally show their face. They tie it up, and it feels like we really do have a game here, Adam, with In Control firmly back in competition.
Right to 5. Again, it feels like In Control are still on a little bit of unstable ground. It feels like this game can tip into the scales of Last Hope at any moment. We're gonna need to see something different. Until proven otherwise, it feels like this game is really risky. Of course, with Latam's Last Hope up a map, they are in control. Without being in control, because they're in control or in control. They're not in control fully. Get me? They need to clear out that barbed wire on white. It was a rhetorical question. Everyone gets me. But
I'm reloading.
so far, it seems like In Control are going to go for something similar. No ram this time around, though.
I wonder if they're trying to be prepared for a potential rush, or actually keeping their eyes and ears out for a fast play, as you saw Matumbo over in Train. In Control are not going for a rush, probably a good thing. I know the attack is probably going to come from this third floor. Smoke canister has been deployed, and Pyrox is playing pretty aggressive angle on the window. The entry has been very important because sometimes it's snowball forward.
Oh my
Caden
God.
spots the arm of the gridlock, but Ivan is down, and that's a huge pick for In Control.
Look at that. They've actually gotten top floor control with even faster pace. And Logger is finally online. We spoke so much about how we needed to see him. And now it's Veronix. It's a 5 versus 1. In Control. It suddenly felt like they were out of this game. But Logger, he logs 3 on the round. And Ink are on match point to send us to Lair.
It's incredibly commendable to fight back the way In Control has, and for a hero play to happen from somebody who has been decently asleep throughout the entire series. One of In Control's strengths as an attack is spotting where a weakness can be and forcing their attack exactly where that weakness is, and in that case, it's Logger finding a hole in the site, getting a couple really crucial kills, and then causing the defense to scatter. There wasn't an extreme emphasis on that top floor hold. It was mainly just a couple sparse players with windows being held by the players outside. And then you have a hero play happen, just like we've seen from Last Hope with Ivan, with Caden. There's been so much happening on the side of Last Hope to keep them in it. It feels only fair that In Control would have a savior.
Count your lucky stars that Logger and Veronix have found themselves online in this game. Gonna need to take it all the way to the bank, though. You still got Last Hope potentially throwing this to overtime if they're able to win this basement defense. The reading room takes have gone well for In Control. Can we say the same about this basement take? Got Logger on the ram, so you have Vert to work with, and that seems like that's going to be the main move here for In Control. Ivan potentially preparing himself for a run out. He's got impacts to work with on that red window. Here's the repels. Actually gonna wait for Logger on this ram. He's not gonna throw that. That might have just saved his life, whether he knows it or not. Looking to throw that ram drone to the window, but chooses not to. They're gonna drone this out instead, and Ivan's play will be spotted.
It's very good to make sure that you got all your corners covered. At this stage in the game, you cannot have a player hiding in a corner. Just completely just get rid of your entire chances of winning the round. The slow pace from In Control, droning it out, throwing out their offensive utility and making sure they have every single spot covered. And then here comes the boogie, something that has had a massive impact all the way back on Labs. Has yet to have its true face be shown all the way over on Kafe. You can tell Logger looking through those holes, trying to spot somebody important, but an impact is going to put a stop to that.
We're out gonna freeze Nesta's hard breach charge. I don't know if that Cade is on there. They AMP it though. Things like that'll get open. C4. Dangerous, dangerous C4 there. Nesta might be on the receiving end of that Nitro cell if he's not careful. The floor is lava here for In Control. They've spotted it. Wait, no they haven't. Sorry, that's an orange ping. I think the C4 just got shot. Maybe they did spot it. So there it goes. In Control now with 55 seconds left. Gotta make their way downstairs.
2 Zoto canisters left. Not going to be used for Passional. Mainly going to be used for stopping these attackers and slowing them down. You see one of them being thrown out. I wonder if the C4s in the pocket of the defender are also going to be used in a little bit of a combination. I worry about the time here. The drop is there and so is the Zoto.
Yeah, Zoto freezes them out. C4 yet to follow. Pyrox is in a really important spot inside of VIP, and they have not cleared him out. Matumbo is the first to fall, though. Rovi spotted in bunker, and Tremac vaults over. Heroic play from him. Nesta above onto Caden. It's down to Pyrox and Ivan on this retake. On a 5 versus 1 now, as Ivan is spotted. Is it going to be flawless? It won't, but Trevmac finds the double. It just had to be any other way, didn't it? We are going to map 3. In Control, looking to do the impossible and go to Pro League. And what a story it would be, but they are 1 map away.
And what an amazing job to tucker through all of the missteps in that game. It felt like it might be all over before we even hit map and series point. That's how many mistakes In Control was making, but they lock in at the very last moment. We don't go to overtime, they win it in regulation, and we go to that daunting decider map. It's looking so exciting, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be any other way. It felt like we finally saw In Control at their best, but they're going to need to carry that all the way through to Lair. It is map number 3 to decide our 10th North American Pro League team. We'll see you right after this break.
Well, and a surprise to absolutely no one, we're going the distance to decide who our final NAL team is going to be. In Control take Kafe 7-5. Adam, it is safe to say that that map was a little more chaotic than the first one. You may have been muted, so I don't know if we caught that full thing there, Adam. I'm
Just say
sorry.
you
But
hate me.
V, on the other hand, right, we saw a Last Hope team that proved to embrace the chaos. I mean, Kafe, we saw just how messy that got. But it was a fight to the very, very end of regulation that In Control was able to win.
Yeah, I mean, the chaos probably isn't a great thing for LATAM's Last Hope. It's something that they love to create, but I think In Control matched their chaos. That's why we saw such a messy Kafe, and why we might have saw some mistakes here and there from In Control. They were playing a lot scrappier, a slap fight, as some people call it. And in my opinion, I think Adam would agree with me, it's probably for the better. They were very timid over on Labs versus here they were constantly taking those fights, and it did lead to, you know, entries by players like Ivan, but the trade game was there. The ability to just simply match LATAM's Last Hope when it comes to frags was there, most importantly.
Yeah, and it felt like that was just missing on Labs. Like, it really felt like we knew this team was capable of playing to that aggressive style. And yeah, they've had some heartbreaking rounds, but for the most part, their attacks were solid. When they realized the rushes weren't working out, they stopped doing them. They started taking this at a much slower pace and started clearing things out and leaving their executes to kind of have a little bit of that controlled chaos that we've been mentioning.
When you go to a map like Lair, taking what we just saw on Kafe, I mean, we saw the success that both teams were able to have, embracing some of that chaos on the attacking side especially. We know how crazy a map like Lair can be. V, what do these teams need to take into that? What are the lessons, especially for LATAM's Last Hope, who were unable to close this one out? If they want to find that same success they did all from map 1, where should their focus be as they head to this final map?
I think LATAM's Last Hope is probably just going to be playing that trade game a bit more. I think it was a little lackluster here and there. You did see some crazy kills from players like Ivan, who was on an island, but there was also a lot of times where you would send a player out in the middle of nowhere and they would just die and nobody would be there to get the refrag. Compare that to In Control, who did that in spades. So I think just as In Control matched LATAM's energy in map 2, LATAM's Last Hope need to match the energy in map 3.
Well, what kind of adjustments might we see from In Control, Adam? I mean, this is a team who successfully adjusted from that map 1 loss, especially from the start of map 1, where things were not going their way at all. Map 2, they come out swinging. They start off with those 4 defensive wins, just barely getting that 4th, but using that to set themselves up for success on the attacking side. I mean, what should they focus on if NAL is in their future?
Well, I think this is going to be a little bit of a hot take, but I actually think that the rushes and all that can stay. I feel like that there's a lot that In Control can do. I just don't think they can get scared with their playstyle. They need to switch things up all the time.
Well, here's the deal. It is one map to decide our 10th and final team in the North American League. So much competition here in the Challenger Series has come down to this. It's In Control. It's LATAM's Last Hope. One more chance to get to the show. Adam?
Completely well said there, Jonah. It's their chance to make this whole thing happen, this whole siege thing work. When you have that talk with your parents and you're like, Mom, I want to go pro in this video game. Dad, I want to make a living playing Siege. I mean, it's kind of a far-fetched dream for a lot of players. This is your chance to get your foot in that door. This is your chance to truly be at the top of the North American scene, at the top of Rainbow Six Siege once and for all. This is it for all 10 of these players. For some of these players, it might be the only chance that they get to do this one again, V.
You feel like, being on this spotlight is going to help some of these players get seen. Players who some of you have never probably heard about. Nesta, Veronix, Logger kind of came out of nowhere, and we have seen some really good plays. I mean, Veronix, throughout the entire tournament, and especially since you and I have had the ability to casting control, it really feels like he has been a rock for this team. He is consistently getting kills. Maybe he's not the star player in some of these maps like Millie might be, but I really do like him. And if In Control are not able to squeeze this one out, I do imagine that this probably will not be the last we see of Veronix.
Yeah, like you said, like these players are going to get some recognition, especially.
Reloading.
Super well, but in the end, you got to give your props to the whole team, because In Control have been playing well as a team. Same with LATAM's Last Hope. It's their biggest success, both of them. So even if you have your doubts about if either of these teams can compete once they make the NAL, at the very least, it's not a team of 5 good players that managed to gun their way into CL, into CS and back into Pro League. It's a good team. Like, it's a team that plays well with each other, that has chemistry over the time that they have spent together. So we're gonna have to see if they can even get to that point first. There's 10 players on this entire lobby. 5 of them are gonna get the chance to go to Pro League this season.
Drone deployed.
And it starts with LATAM's Last Hope on the attack. They can't bring the Ying that they really love. No Glaz. That it's going to be Mutombo on the shield. Spots 2 players, and both Tachanka Shumika shells and smoke canisters being deployed just to stop Mutombo from pushing up. Honestly, your job here is to just soak up as much of that utility as you can. Can you draw more out of Millie? Can you draw some out of Nest? You're probably not going to deprive the Tachanka of every shell, but if you could just start chipping away at that with the time that you have, you will be rewarded for it at the end.
Just trying to burn as much time as possible while literally burning Monty alive. It's both Millie and Veronix. Ivan just got a skeleton key kill from below, and Pyrox finds Logger. It is a rough start to Lair on this defense, as it is a 4v2. You still have Nesta to deal with this Tachanka, but he is being forced out by Ivan. Swing there from Nesta is unsuccessful, and Pyrox cleans up Trevmac. That is a clean and swift execution there from LATAM's Last Hope, and they claim their first Lair attack.
A lot of it comes down to Ivan down below. I mean, without the buck, you're not going to be able to pressure out some of the players in the site. You're not going to be able to pressure out the Tachanka and eventually get that kill. And it just leaves Mutombo kind of stranded in that hallway. But because the buck is there, the entire round simply opens up. And Ivan really wasn't pressured. There was nobody there to start off the roam clear with, maybe a kill, maybe just pressure in general, so that Last Hope's ability to waste time just gets even worse, and suddenly they're having to push with 7 Shumika launcher shells, a smoke canister, all while Ivan is trying to fight for his life down below. It's an idea. It's not going to work out, but you really cannot let players like Ivan in really key parts of the map just have their way. We talked about how the ability to match LATAM's Last Hope's chaotic ability, take these fights, is probably where In Control are going to find some success. Didn't really exist in round 1.
Yeah, and Lair's a map where you can really get away with some crazy nasty lurks. So this is Ivan's playing ground. Playing ground. It's his playground. He has so many avenues of approach that he can work with on this attack towards this site. They're gonna have to find a way to deal with him. You've got Nesta on the Solus, which makes me think that In Control are gonna establish a roam. Is that dangerous for Ivan, or is that dangerous for the rest of the defense, is the question. The wall's already getting opened up here by Pyro. Seems like a pretty stock standard take for the most part. As Last Hope are going to be looking to pressure this above.
I was watching the game yesterday where In Control did play up against Foot Locker's Finest, and it was Harrison who talked about the different ways that you can attack. It's fully clearing out that top floor, or about a half clear on the top floor, and then you use smokes. For LATAM's Last Hope, it seems like they're really wanting to put as much emphasis on that top floor as they can before they eventually rotate on over to the bottom. It's where you have players like the Sens, you have Pyrox's smokes, but then In Control have Nesta on the Solus, Vironix on the Warden, two very hard counters to this exact type of strategy. And so where do you go with this? You cannot just fully commit because there is such a risk. But what else can you do with the operator lineup that you've got?
Traps are really the only thing that's going to stop Matumbo from getting in with this plant, and Logger's starting to be surrounded inside a briefing. His location as well, very well marked here by Last Hope. So In Control are going to be relying heavily on this vert to do something, and that's when this lurk from Ivan and Rovi is going to come in. Rovi holding this top green flank, waiting for someone on In Control to dare peek him. There's the first smoke. Matumbo gonna start to go in. Sends wall as well for Cadence, and it's Logger to be found downstairs. So the rest of the team is gonna have to find a way to deny this from above, and Millie manages to do so with that shotgun. Vironix as well finds a plant. So now it's 3 versus 4. Millie retaking. Green finds Cadence, and he'll back away as Ivan rushes at him through the smoke. He gets the pick. This is still dangerous here. If Ivan can do something big, but he's C4'd away. 20 seconds left. Both players are above. They're trying to force the picks. No plant for Last Hope. 15 seconds to find 3. Ivan's gonna make his way through, but Nesta has the swing. Pyrox with a double. Has one inside and spots him, but is it enough? The shotgun barely doing damage there to Vironix. Only meant for destruction, while Vironix's shotgun meant for destruction of the human anatomy, and it does just that. In Control will get around back on the middle floor site.
So when you have the idea of throwing down the smokes and trying to get the plant down, you need to make sure that you are either in a position that is not going to be covered by that top floor, or you pressure out the Solus and plant somewhere different, which we saw in the previous game up against In Control and Foot Locker's Finest that Foot Locker's Finest did. And In Control don't really have to do too much. They spot it out with the Solus and then throw all of their shotguns over towards the Blackbeard of Matumbo, and it's not very difficult of a counter strategy. And so for LATAM's Last Hope, I think that is just going to be kind of a wash. Bunks can be a little bit more of a difficult site to take because you're essentially just attacking the top floor again while also having to worry about how you're going to attack that Bunks site. But one last thing I do want to commend on In Control throughout this entire match, actually, that I haven't mentioned, is that they haven't let entry kills get the best of them. In the last round, Logger dies, and yet it's LATAM's Last Hope who end up losing the round. So In Control do a wonderful job at maintaining composure and keeping strong.
Yeah, it feels like that effect kind of grew on In Control, because towards the beginning of the game, that wasn't the case. Like, In Control were having a lot of trouble whenever they lost their entry engagements, but now it feels like it isn't affecting them, like you said. Like, it really just, it feels like Last Hope are kind of running out of options, because finding that entry pick isn't everything nowadays. Now it's kind of about establishing control quickly. Last Hope have a really good advantage against In Control, and it is shock value. Simply put, Last Hope get a lot of control really quickly. They fill a lot of space instantly. And In Control need to be ready for that. They've set up the traps on Logger to kind of help out. But that still doesn't stop a lurk maybe from Ivan, a lurk from Rovi. Any of these players who have just been kind of isolating picks as much as they can. As Matumbo, will he fall for the bait? There's a thorn trap on that pipe. If that thorn trap goes off, the pipe will get hit. And there it is. Pipe explodes. But no pick just found. Matumbo put down to half HP though, with that C4. That isn't nothing. They're holding his fall off. Millie has to be so careful to not back up into that angle for even a second. There it is. Shot through the drone hole, but Kane will move away. This is Millie's chance to do something, but he's not going to back up, continuing to fight for this.
There's nobody here to help. It's just wasting time. Even if Millie does eventually go down, which he will, you're still taking a good amount of time off the board. So now LATAM's last hope have about a minute 15, of which Lager gets the trade. There again is in control, not letting that entry death get the best of them. And because LATAM's last hope will focus so much on those stairs, it allows players like Lager to roam and get these really critical flank kills.
Yeah, and Lager on that flank means that last hope, they're going to option out the push. They're just going to decide to go in. And it feels like they might be able to with Trebmak going down. This flank is so important and it's being held, but with Nesta dropping in the site and Lager unable to find that kill, Last Hope have found a way back in this round. Matumbo finds Veronix, and unfortunately for Lager, his flank is the only thing standing, as Last Hope will get away with that execute. And they barely actually hit the site. It just felt like all that pressure came from above. In control, they had so much of that to work with. They had so much space in the site, but they lost players, and that's kind of the end of that tale.
Bans come out pretty normal by what we've seen. You know, Clash hasn't been incredibly present in this map so far, but I think as you go up to that second floor, a site that you did win previously, In Control are going to be wondering, okay, what do we do differently? And their brain might immediately go to the Clash. So Last Hope take that off the board. And now the criticism that I had of the defense in the last time was nobody put pressure onto Ivan. He was allowed to do whatever he wanted. So is that going to change? We still see Ivan on the buck. Is it going to be Millie over in bunks? We're keeping our eyes on you, mister, because you could make or break the round depending on what you do against Ivan.
Also, starting to see the development of the Monty with the Clash ban. I'm starting to get a little worried because In Control don't... I mean, they have smokes. They have maybe a C4 to deal with that Montaigne, but that was a big linchpin for Last Hope, was that Montaigne. Shields have been a common issue for In Control, both on attack and the Clash on defense. You're gonna have to find your way around this. At the same time, you got 4 other completely fleshy mammals that you could shoot at that don't have a big metal rock in front of their face. So if they're able to find those picks onto those isolated players, it's a lot of utility that you get rid of on all 4 of those players. It's all about not being pressured out of these situations where you're trying to stall as much time as possible. Especially with Veronix, for example, playing on that mezzanine. Nesta already engaging with Caden.
Here's one part of the attack. Matumbo making himself known on Skybridge. Now, Ivan over in weapon maintenance. Nobody is on this first floor. It's got the assistance of Rovi, so it's going to make those rotates really easy. And for this attack, it's just going to be slow. How much pressure can Matumbo put on those players holding in server? And how long is it going to take for Ivan to get his job done on that first floor? Frag grenade goes out, and it's going to deliver a swift blow to the util on that rocket stairs, actually keeping Nesta away from applying pressure onto that door. Time just continues to dwindle away. We still wait for when that first strike for LATAM's Last Hope will happen.
Target located. Second floor.
Relatively slow round in terms of engagements. That's certainly going to change. Ivan is going to be a menace down below. Nesta's starting to work that flank to try to deal with him, but that's not a guarantee, considering Ivan being 5-1 in this game and just being an absolute demon in the 1vx's. when given that opportunity. Oof. Rex, don't lose your head. Tumbo. He's kind of pushed up here. Trevmac, heads up play, just corners the Montaigne, and that's a really important operator there. He will die, but that is still no Monty on this execute. 20 seconds left. That is your only smokes as well. So you're gonna have to cross with pure luck. Actually, you have Capitao, and where's Millie looking? Rovi gets the second kill. This is still so winnable, but Lager with the MP5 finds Kaden and is in a really important spot. 3 seconds left. Ivan has case and is starting to plant. Pyrox with the cover, but Lager swings in. A double kill for him. It was a scary round at first for In Control, despite the fact that they killed that Montaigne, and despite the fact that the timer was on their side, but they still get it done. 2-2. This game is as even as ever.
So what Matumbo tries to do there is it seems like Ivan on that first floor isn't applying the pressure that's needed. So Matumbo takes things into his own hands and tries to get in onto Trevmac, but he doesn't have help. And Trevmac is able to focus solely on the Monty, guard break him, use that shotgun that's going to win almost every single time up against a Monty. I'm kind of left scratching my head because Latam's Last Hope had a buck, swapped onto the Deimos at the last second, and it seemed like the Deimos didn't really give them exactly what they wanted. So it was just a hastily put together push that In Control are able to stand their ground and wait it out. Use the util, use the time that they have without any real pressure from the attack.
Feels like this entire game is being balanced on a knife's edge at every moment. For In Control, your chest is pounding a little bit when you think about Ivan and that Montaigne. Even Matumbo, or sorry, even Pyrox has been having a fantastic map 3. For In Control, it's kind of just their site presence is pretty strong. Last Hope, there's never a guarantee that they're gonna break through that defense with just their lurks alone. Plenty of things to be feared from both sides. But for In Control, they're gonna have to start fearing this push by the Sky Bridge from this Montaigne. Walks past Millie. I don't think Millie can really do anything about it, because he's being held on the cross.
Reloading!
Matumbo's right at the front door with a minute. Lager's in the exact same spot that he was at last round. What is the play here for In Control, knowing that this is going on? Rovi's gonna rotate out of Skybridge and play an even deeper cross. And move away. There is an opportunity to make a play here towards Skybridge.
I'm feeling deja vu. It just feels so similar. You have the Monty this time, so maybe a little bit of coverage, but Lager's not being pressured. Solus and Warden still on that top floor. So what is going to be the adaptation? What is going to be different for this attack? They haven't hit the go button just yet. The goal is seemingly wait out the smokes. And the defense can just sit back. Wait it out.
Keep your eyes on Lager. He's working a pick right now, working a flank on this green stairs as this delay is happening with the smokes. Plenty of intel here for Nesta. Looking for that planter. Final gas babe in the hands of Millie. Matumbo's gonna make his way in. He's not the man with case, it's Cadent. Again, off the plant. 40 seconds. Now is the time to make some actionable decisions here or In Control. You have no more gas grenades left. No more C4s to work with! But Millie just shoots Cadent through the smoke! Matumbo's somehow not covering that! And the plant's going down! They know where it's happening! Are they able to deny it? They aren't! And Lager is shut down on that flank! Now the drop has to come through. In Control. Veronix loses that fight, but there's more. Pyrox with 3. He shuts it down so quickly. And Last Hope, they get a successful middle floor attack. In Control. They managed to win it the first time around, but not this time. It'll be a 3-2, and Lair is going swimmingly for LATAM's last hope.
Oh my gosh, they were putting all their eggs in one basket, Adam. So much of that round was just waiting for the smoke to dissipate, waiting for their own smoke to dissipate. It's a kind of game of cat and mouse between the two teams, and then you lose the sense. You lose one body that could potentially help you in the post plant to get the diffuser down. But having that Monty, the shield up against the back, there's no angle that the defense is able to fight. You remember all the way back when we went to the site before, that was the thing, was that the defense was able to find an angle with all their shotguns and take care of the post plant. And that was not the case here. And LATAM's last hope, their patience is rewarded. I was getting scared because of how one-dimensional that push was. But their guns came alive. Pyrox is sitting at 9-1. He has died once, somehow. And it's still just him leading the charge.
I have to admit something to you, V. It's only round 6, and my hand is, like, kind of shaking.
Lucky, we still got potentially half the map to go.
I'm a nervous wreck. Just goes to show how, like, close this game is. Any variable, any change-up can throw this entire game for a loop. Even with Last Hope being up 3-2, that is no guarantee that they have this in the bag. Even with a very favorable attacking split, there's no guarantee that In Control won't do something similar on their attacks. It really is going to come down to a game of attack here for both of these teams to promote themselves from challengers teams, the official NAL players. For all 5 of the players on In Control, that'll be for the first time. Cadence spotted here, C4 ripped, not shot. Matumbo will take the brunt of it. Cadence still looking for that angle. They've positioned 4 defenders over here to try and collapse in on this blue tag. They are not allowing Last Hope to take this space. But Ivan is on this lurk once again, right outside of Rocket. Last Hope have contingency plans in place.
It feels like In Control are almost daring them to take this fight. You see? We know you know we're here. Fight us for it. And Rovi says, yes, we will. Veronix is there for the trade. An incredibly chaotic. Somebody help this Monty! How did Matumbo end up in the corner? Where did it all go wrong? I blinked my eyes and suddenly Matumbo is in hell. This is a poorly constructed round for Last Hope, and we should end up on a 3-3 split.
It's a good attempt there by Kaden, but Lager with 3 on the round. Been saying his name pretty often here. Definitely a player to watch. But looking at the big picture of this game, it is still 3-3, right? In Control, they didn't win on what is considered the more advantageous side of the defense. Now, you could put that down to how In Control has kind of been struggling on this defense, or you could put it down to the map. Regardless, the attacks still matter a lot more. In Control has shown the brunt of their success on attack. They have shown that they are extremely good at this attack. But Lair is difficult. Lair is massive compared to Kafe. We're going to have to see if In Control can do something on this attack to really send this game home. Because Last Hope, it really feels like that they've... I mean... This game is anyone's game. It's been anyone's game ever since Map 2 ended. But they had full control of this game on Lair. If we see that side of Last Hope on this defense, I say Lair, I meant Labs. If we see Last Hope have that control on this defense of Lair, it could spell disaster for In Control. We're gonna have to see them get a hot start here.
This was the map that they went up to a 4-2 half. Up against, there is now a North American League team, Foot Locker's finest. But that doesn't show you what they could do here. Well, I don't really know what will. So it's up to LATAM's Last Hope. honestly might be the last hope, because there is not really anybody else who's been in the LATAM region that has made a splash within Siege quite like these 5 players. And for them, it would mean another year of being in the NAL and another year of LATAM having an impact onto, or at least Mexico having an impact onto Siege. So I look towards how are they going to counter attacking lineup that we have. There's a Ying, a Snake, a Monty, and Last Hope have so much denial. They don't have a Warden, and I think that is the huge red flag for me.
Yeah, they're playing for the late round. Feels like In Control are too, though. So if they play into this setup, it could be dangerous. They also have the Monty and the Snake for direct control. They have the Ying on Nesta for this execute. They can kind of do it any time. So far, it's all about establishing yourself on that top floor. Logger, the clear-cut MVP of this map on that buck. C4 rip there from Cadent, but it doesn't find anything. As a matter of fact, it actually popped a Goyo. Quite unlucky there. Definitely didn't want that to happen.
Airdrop deployed.
Goyo himself, Pyrox, also 9-2. Sometimes it's all a matter of winning that first engagement. Like we've mentioned, In Control they've been fine whenever they lose that entry, but it's still a lot worse to lose that entry on attack. You lose so much utility, so much pressure, so much agency over the map. That's why you see both these teams playing really slow, but like you said, V, they're playing for the execute here, Last Hope, so any time burn is great for them.
Candela goes out.
Lights on.
Not initially picking up on anything, but you see the smoke and the echo, and it is Millie to strike first onto Rovi. You saw Nesta putting in some work as well, so they know a player is here, but Vironix, through the sonar blast, kills Pyrox, and it's In Control with a lot of time remaining and a lot of control over this round.
That was nuts from Veronix, pre-firing that Toxin rotate the moment that Pyrox swung. He has so much control over the site, and he can now use his scanner to his advantage, but he'll go down. Logger gets the trade onto Kaden on the mirror, though, and that's gonna prompt this execute. You still got Matumbo alive on this Echo, but he's trying to pop the Goyo. He thinks this plant's going down default. He gets air jabbed as he goes for the deny, but the plant goes down, and Millie with 3 on the round, In Control, take control of the first attacking round.
And is this where we see the resurgence of a team that looked so down and beaten on Kafe, and they come out with a strong showing on that first round? It all starts with the Warden ban. You go the Ying so that at least for the next 2 rounds now, you can throw somebody on the Ying. It seems to be Nesta with the shotgun. And there is absolutely nothing that the defense could do about it. Well, you want to bring a Wamai? Well, you want to bring a Jaeger? Throw a wrench into your carefully calculated operator plan for each site? Yeah, good luck with that. That's just not going to happen. And for In Control, who are initiating a lot of these fights with the Candelas, they're automatically going to start with an advantage. So far in this round, they're not committing to it just yet. You see Nesta kind of hovering a bunch of different operators, maybe make it a little easier to get through, I want to say, some of these black mirrors, because there is no Kaid, there is no Bandit, but Nesta is still going to stick on that blowtorch.
First time I think we've seen a Maverick this game. Pretty crucial operator on Lair, especially whenever you consider that there could be a bandit. There isn't one, curiously, from Last Hope, who don't have it banned. It's just the Cade. That Maverick will make the wall just a little easier to open. There's also a chance that they're going to try and go for a peek, putting down like a little tiny hole inside of the wall and trying to kill anybody playing on the office corner.
Special charge.
So far, yeah, it seems like that's exactly what they're going to do. Oh my god, Nesta, be careful!
Pull a Doki. Pull a Doki there.
Well, so, I do like what they were doing. They're actually I think they're trying to burn Ivan's tube burrow, maybe? Or maybe they're expecting a bandit trick. Either way, wall's open. There's a mirror looking into it. So that's an interesting adaptation. I've never seen that before. And Last Hope, but that's going to rely heavily on this mezzanine control here.
As a incredibly brave fight from Pyrox, but he's kind of stuck, uses the Kiba barrier to back off and drops the Black Mirror, knowing that that position is given up, so he's not going to give anything on over to the attacks. It's a good play by him to get out of dodge and save his life. That is not a position that is really worth dying for, especially in a disadvantageous gunfight such as that. Now we start to see some of those Shumika shells come out from Matumbo, just landing all throughout the entire site and trying to keep in control from pushing up as far as they can. I think you saw Ivan use the Zoto canister to freeze out the death mark, making Logger's impact even less so on that first floor, so he has to rotate to help the actual attack on the second floor.
Time is dwindling. 55 seconds left here for this control attack. In terms of space taken, they're really just kind of on the front door. Trevmac goes down. He'll open the wall. Kind of double-edged sword, because now he's exposed to danger, but him managing to crawl away might be big as Logger gets the entry. Rovi has the trade. It's a 4 versus 3. Trevmac is recovered. Case picked up by Millie. Flash is coming through, but there's so much denial to work with here from Matumbo. They'll burn out this plant, and you still have Pyrox in such a strong position! But Rovi doesn't shoot Nesta on the approach. He has one, but it's a double from Pyrox. Veronix trades onto Matumbo. It's Pyrox in the middle of the site. Millie hops off the plant to try and go for that peek, and Veronix swings on in. It's a second attack from In Control. They're starting to mount a lead here against Latam's Last Hope.
I think Vironix is just the wrinkle in the plan that In Control need. Because initially, it's an incredibly one-dimensional push from Mez. And Latam's Last Hope have everything they need to counter it. They have the Shumika shells, they have Black Mirrors and Kiba barriers that Pyrox is able to play behind. But Vironix initially gets that kill, and he doesn't push. He just stays in storage, and suddenly, that is a huge weak point for this Latam defense, and that allows In Control to realize that they don't have to just force into that master site. They can rotate over to our 6th room, have the coverage of the player inside of storage, all thanks to Vironix. All throughout the night, we've talked about the impact that a singular player can have, whether it's Millie getting an ace, whether it is Pyrox collecting crucial 3 kills, or Vironix in storage, giving In Control a very nice 2-round lead and keeping their perfect attacks up.
Yeah, perfect is a good way to put it. It feels like Latam's Last Hope have been strangled out of these defenses every single time, left with no air to breathe. In Control have... well, they've been in control, certainly. It feels like they've made this lair look easy, but we're switching up the sights now. And for In Control, that opening engagement still very important. Pyrox is 11-4, and he is inside a Skybridge. He might be a target. In Control have no idea that he's here just yet. As it seems like a relatively slow start here, In Control want to get as much info as possible before potentially going for what looks like an execute given their setup. Ooh. That's rough.
The Sens is banned out, so you're gonna have to go for something a little different, and that might make Cadence that much more important. I wonder if any pressure is gonna get put on him. Players like Vironix, 2 smoke grenades, Trevmac, Capital bolts that he has in his pocket. The last time we were here was Latam's Last Hope, essentially just giving us, 2 minutes to yap, do whatever, because so much of it was just waiting and waiting and waiting for utility to dissipate. But Trevmac goes in alone and dies for it, and that smoke canister's off the board. Is a trade gonna happen here? Oh my goodness.
Matombo! He had his Shumika out, and he gets the knife off at the last second, but he is traded. They don't know that Pyrox is in this corner, though, and Rovi finds the double. Perhaps a little too quick there for In Control, but it's a 1 versus 2. And Nesta has the location of Pyrox. He is so low. Final dope call goes out. Nesta trying to confirm if this Azami has backed off, and by the sound cues, it seems like she has for Nesta. 40 seconds. Both of these In Control players, or sorry, Last Hope players, not playing in the site. That is crucial. No matter what Nesta does upstairs, he's not going to be able to do much with the vert. He has to drop to try and find these picks, and both Ivan and Pyrox are full HP. Here comes the hatch drop. Not being threatened on that. But the moment that this plant starts to go down, the retake from Ivan and Pyrox goes underway. Nesta looking for the stick. He peeks onto Ivan. 1v1. Might have the location of Pyrox as well. Switches to a safer plant spot. Now he can isolate Pyrox on this. Plant doesn't go down. And Nesta! Are you kidding me? Wins the 1v3! And it's one more round for this T3 team to make it to Pro League!
Just as I was spelling doom for In Control on Kafe, that might be it for LATAM's Last Hope. An incredibly winnable 1v2, but the players are so isolated that there is no way you can get a trade, and Pyrox is caught with his pants down, doesn't even put up his gun. Nesta, my God, that might be it. And they're one round away. You said it. From Pro League. It looked bad on Nighthaven Labs. Potentially looked worse on Kafe. But they did not let that deter them. Won it in regulation and now up 6-3 on their attacking half, their preferred half. On Lair, the Kebi band comes out, and you have to think maybe Nesta had a hand in that.
Oh man. It feels like every single time we speak about In Control, it's that they're doing way better whenever, even if they lose the opening engagement. You can kill 3 of them, and it'll still be a winnable round for In Control, who now face a top floor take. 6-3. A good team may struggle in this scenario. A great team will not allow themselves to choke this one away. Are In Control that great team today? It's LATAM's Last Hope. And In Control. 6-3. Inc. They're switching it up a little. They've got a Grim, a Deimos, Finca. All operators that we haven't seen from them on this upstairs. It may be a Grim. For them, that doesn't matter. It's all about what happens in the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
An entry pick is oh so crucial. Less for LATAM's Last Hope and more for In Control, who've been able to take the entry picks that they've gotten and work with it, unlike their opponent. Nesta is underneath. He is not opposed. The only person even remotely close would be Ivan, all the way over by blue stairs. So for now, Nesta is just going to be able to walk underneath, he has a drone for assistance, see if he can spot somebody. Take that first entry kill that's oh so important. And you can tell that In Control are wary. They're ready for somebody to contest Logger and Nesta from underneath.
Aiden, already taking a bit of damage on that Mira. People are surrounding the site. They are in so many different spots. Try and collapse in on this site. You've got Nesta and Logger below to try and play a lot of pressure to not only players sitting still, but also those Miras, more importantly. We've seen Last Hope play a lot of power positions inside the site. So if you're able to find one of those early, it's Ivan. Ivan is dead, and the Grims are going out. They're not wasting a second on this. 1 minute left, and In Control are in the lead.
Roby's position is spotted. He cannot push forward. Controller using their util so well. Now you have Nesta pushing up rocket stairs. Could be a beautiful pinch as well. So much tension mounting for LATAM's last hope. Is this the last chance that they will get at a shot at T1 Siege with 30 seconds left in the round?
Veronix is just holding Rovi here, so this is a 3 versus 4 on the site. He's trying to pressure him away, but there's the vault in Veronix. He loses the engagement. Now Nesta burning, saved by the Finka boost. Here it comes. Logger making his way through Pebbles. It's so many individual plays, but Pyrox shuts down Logger. Trebmac with the trade. Nesta's down. Plant's going down, but Trebmac's burning, and he sticks it anyway. It's all down to Millie. 1 versus 3. Can he pull it out of his out of the hat? It doesn't seem like he will. 1 second left. C4 ripped. Millie finds the triple, but cannot find the last. LATAM's last hope. Secure the top floor defense.
Still just sweating. It's not secure, even though we had some amazing plays. Rovi collecting those kills onto display, not dying. I think that's the most important thing for LATAM's last hope at this point. Not that, you know, you maybe get a kill from it. It's that you just stay in that position. You provide that pressure that you need to, that your existence has on the attack.
Defenders
And 4 in control.
defused by attack.
We had one, barely couldn't pull it away. It was a 1v1 at the last second. Can you imagine that maybe if there's, you know, a little bit more time, last hope play it a little bit differently, but it's still so close that they have to be hearing their heartbeat in their ears. This game is so close, it feels so one-sided with how good In Control have looked on their attacks. I think, remember, that is the first round that LATAM's last hope have been able to get on the defense. That's how good In Control have been on the attack. That's how good Nesta was on his 1v3. But they have to keep it up for 2 more rounds. Defy the odds that the entire match has shown us so far, and do what In Control did on Kafe and mount that comeback.
Reloading. Cover me.
Switching things up as well. You've got Caden on the Scopos, recently buffed. Ivan on the Solus. They want to try and play this offsite pressure to make In Control fear that roam and make them clear it out. But Veronix is on the Snake, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Might just take a bit of time. Caden's just making noise, trying to be spotted so he can switch to his shell and back away. Veronix and Millie are already in. They have taken control of Warehouse, and they have droned out weapons. And it's completely clear. Nesta's starting to get this soft wall open.
Keep a berry.
Get that thermite charge. I think
I'm reloading.
it might be next to a hard breach. I'm not sure what he was doing. Let's take a look at that.
Barrier deployed.
Pyrox spotted in sight. So he's starting to feel this pressure, and he might have to pop some Goyos to try and deal with this. Last hope are being forced back on this defense.
Changing mag.
In Control are really wanting to force a defender into an uncomfortable position for them to get that entry. But nothing is happening just yet. It's a little reminiscent of last round, where they tried so hard to force Rovi out of display, but he would not budge. Pyrox is down. That is the top frag gone, and it is Nesta. Rovi is next to fall. 5v3. So much time remaining for In Control to get the job done.
Here's the flank from Cadence. Nesta with the double. Plant starting to go down. What can Cadence do? It's all onto Cadence. A 3 versus 1. You call them the greats. Canadian the IGL. One of the greatest of all time. Trevmac joins that list as In Control defy every single expectation. And they make it to Pro League in one of, if not the greatest upsets in the history of Siege. Congratulations to a Tier 3 North American squad on their first shot in CL to make it to the NAL. My goodness.
Absolutely cinematic
Golf clap.
finish to that one, and In Control are the final NAL team. Unbelievable. They take down a team with plenty of tier 1 experience to get to that point. They could not have deserved it in any better fashion than losing the first map and needing to take the next 2 to win it. I mean, V, this was the game that they needed. A moment that got a little nervous for them too when they were up 6-3, same situation they found themselves on map 1 yesterday, but they shake the curse. They have nothing to do with that problem, and there they go, winning it in 3, and are the last team in the NAL.
It feels like they just, something was in the water. They had the clutch gene in them. I mean, Nesta's 1v3 to solidify a lead and to, it feels like solidify the map in the series. Almost. A lot of mistakes on the side of LATAM's Last Hope, but In Control did a wonderful job of forcing a lot of those mistakes. It's hard not to look at this and say the better team definitely won, because LATAM's Last Hope, struggle as they may, In Control just looked dominable, and they break the curse of the upper bracket final.
Truly we talked about the chaos from that second map, really continued into the third, but this time, Adam, it felt like In Control used that to their advantage. And every time there was a moment that it looked like LATAM's Last Hope was going to get that momentum back and take the lead, I mean, In Control just stopped them in their track. We had, you mentioned TrevMac, the IGL, but we saw the contributions up and down this lineup. Hero plays out of just about everyone had their moment in the sun to take this win.
You said it best. That's literally what I was gonna say, right? Like, we were talking about the individual players and how In Control, as strong as they are a team, individually they can fall. But in this map alone, on Lair, even on Kafe 2, that went completely out the window. It felt like In Control, all 5 players were committing to this. It felt like all 5 players were actually giving something to this team rather than having to rely on the system to put them forward. I mean, Logger was going off in that game. Nesta, amazing clutch from him. Just so many of those individual plays. The lesson that we learned is you can't count a team out. We cannot assume that just because In Control came into this game looking like a team that was strong together but separate apart, they did the exact opposite. They managed to have so many individual plays that led them to that victory.
Well, the journey to this victory was not as simple as that best of 3. You see it here, the final picture of the North American Challenger Series playoffs. In Control, they started as the 1 seed coming into this bracket, and they proved that they may not have been the first team to make it through, but they proved that that seed was deserved, and they qualified for the NAL in 2026. You see the journey that these teams have taken, not just reserved to this 8-team double elimination playoff bracket. They played in Swiss before this, in 4 open qualifier tournaments before this, and In Control was one of those teams, V, who had to fight their way through the open qualifier trenches, get to this point, fight their way through Swiss, get through this bracket tooth and nail, and to win it in the lower final. I mean, it is truly the end of a grind that has been working for this team for such a long time.
And it feels worth it at the end. When you get to the top of the mountain, you can think about the journey, but all that you see is the view in front of you and how majestic it looks. And In Control, I wanted to look on Wikipedia. This org has been a thing since 2020. So 6 years of In Control existing. I mean, they've had newers. They've had Spiker, JJ Blast. Sound familiar? You know, he may have known a couple things about Challenger Series here and there. So for these players, it feels completely worth it. You know, this month long going through the open quals and going through Swiss and the upper bracket, they earned it. Absolutely.
Well, we have the chance to speak to the victors. We will bring in the IGL. We will bring in TrevMac, who led his team to this victory. TrevMac, oh my God, congratulations. What are you feeling right now? You have made the NAL.
I'm feeling fantastic. It's great. I'm so happy.
Shut up! Give me something else, bro. What the heck do you mean? I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. What the heck?
I mean, it's a little surreal, to be honest. Like, we haven't even been in a team that long. We made the team like, I think like a week before quals. So like, it's crazy to be here. This was never like making the team. Obviously, like making Pro League was like the dream, but now like it actually happened.
So we
It's
had
insane.
the 3/5 pack runner of Lager, Veronix, and Nesta, and you picked that up. They hadn't touched T2 before. What was it about those three that really drew you to them?
So we had Logger before, so we knew he was good with our build we had before, and then we dropped 2 players, and we picked up Nesta and Vaughn, and the thing that really stuck out is Nesta can literally do it all on attack and defense, but he is like the shield player, he's the Shees player, he can do the doe clerk, he is literally, he's amazing, he's like a mini Spirit, but he's going to be better. And then Vaughn does like the stuff no one else wants to do, but it needs to get done, and he's crazy in the clutches too. Just no one else could be better than him or anyone on my team, especially Millie.
guys-
Millie was going absolutely crazy during all of quals, all of the league, like everything. Millie's literally the GOAT.
This is a two-parter. So, one, is Millie still on a hotspot? Did he make Pro League on a hotspot?
Yeah.
Okay.
He
to a
had to play
guy on a
today and
hotspot,
yesterday
man.
on
Come on.
hotspot.
Now my second question.
Speaking of hotspot.
Obviously, you and we have a personal connection. We live really close to each other. We've hung out before. The first thing I did when this game was over was I texted you and I was like, "Holy crap, you did it!" You've been through this whole arc where it was at the start of Element 1, you got dropped, you got whatever, you left this team, you went to SSGA, you got top 4. It felt like that was it. And at that point, you were kind of just floating around. You took it upon yourself to make a team that you trusted in and make it to Pro League. So my question to you is, does that feel better than the Revenge Nation run where you guys did the exact same thing, where you made it to Challenger Series and you almost made it all the way, but what does this feel like to you? Does it feel cathartic that you finally get to break the chains of being that tier 2 sort of floater? You're finally in tier 1 after not making it this long? Or how does it feel for you and the team?
It just had to be done this way. I don't think there's any other way it was going to happen, especially for like me in particular, or at least the team. I mean, I'm just glad I can make it with a team and we can grow and get better together. And the job's not done.
The doubters true.
Making the league is just half the battle.
Well, essentially, you're
Is he on hotspot?
Oh no.
Is it-
This is an
well, I don't know if
awful
I'm
time
coming
to
through. It
lose.
looks like a
Oh,
little
over
bit.
here.
Your
Yes.
life now in
Oh.
siege.
I think we're better now.
No way. Oh my god. Wait, Jonah? This is your last chance, I think. And he's frozen.
Anyway,
Okay. I think I'll take it from here. Trev, congratulations. Just, I mean, absolutely incredible run from you. I can't wait to see the TikTok about how you made Pro League. And best of luck, man. I think that you had a lot of doubters and you shut them up today. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I can finally stop LARPing my TikTok titles.
Well, I may be back here. It's a shame. I did want to say goodbye to Trev Mack and hopefully see him later as the team grows in the NAL. I mean, it's crazy because they're going to be competing in the kickoff event in just a few weeks. They've got stage 1 after that, potentially some majors. Who knows? Who knows what is possible with this team? The one thing that we know for sure, Adam and V, I mean, if there's anything that we know about this team is that to expect the unexpected. Because a team that had no T1 experience, no former pro leader, they take a T2 team and a T3 team, they mix them together, and here they are going to the NAL. Truly a storybook moment for these guys. Cannot wait to see where they go next. For all of us here who have made this North American Challenger Series possible, thank you so much for watching these teams make it through the gauntlet. For Crow and Fellow, for Jasmine, for Light Rose, and myself, I've been Jonas Willinger saying thanks for watching, and we will see you when the NAL gets started in just a few weeks. We'll We'll see you then. Thanks so much.